A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to Eswatini TV. This is Home Study, your favorite teleeducation program. My name is Lirato Mabilisa, and as always, I am with the gorgeous colleague of mine, Nogwazi Dlamini. Also joining me in studio is our handsome sign language interpreter, Linda Mamba, and our beautiful sign language interpreter, Nombumelelo Hadebe. A very good afternoon, Nogwazi.
A very good afternoon to you, Lerato. You look stunning as always. A very good afternoon to our viewers and welcome to Home Study. How is your afternoon, Lerato?
My afternoon is fantastic. I'm actually enjoying today's day so far. Okay, can you please give us today's timetable?
All right, grade 7s, Form 3s and Form 5s. This is what your day of learning looks like today. From right now until 2:30 p.m., we have science for grade 7. From 2:30 p.m. until 3:08 p.m., we have mathematics for Form 3. From 3:08 p.m. until 3:45 p.m., we have Eswatini for Form 3. From 3:45 p.m. until 4:25 p.m., we have Eswatini for Form 5. And the last subject for the day is biology for Form 5 from 4:25 p.m. until 5 p.m. Lerato, please remind our viewers about our social media platforms.
Well, we have YouTube and Facebook where we are live from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Do not forget to subscribe so that whenever we are live, you get a notification. And if you have missed any episodes, you can catch the episodes on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV Home Study channel.
Yes, that is true. And just another reminder to our viewers that we do have a WhatsApp number that you can send questions through if you have any questions for that particular subject. Now, without wasting any time, Lerato will be right back with the grade 7 teacher, Sikumbuzo Sfunza. We'll be right back after this.
Why is hand washing with soap effective against COVID-19? The coronavirus is too small to see, but is covered with little spikes that stick tightly to the natural greases on your skin. It gets on your skin by someone with COVID-19 coughing or sneezing nearby you, or by you touching an unclean surface where the virus can stay active for up to several days. But washing hands thoroughly with soap for 20 seconds is highly effective against the virus. Soap loosens the grip of the virus on the skin and destroys the outer layer of the virus, pulling it apart. This means the virus loses its power to infect people. Washing your hands well with soap means you can destroy or remove the virus and wash it away before it has the chance to infect you or your family. By washing hands with soap and water, people protect themselves, their loved ones, family, and the community. By acting together, we can help stop the spread of coronavirus.
Welcome back, grade 7s. If you have just tuned in, do not worry. We are about to start our science lesson, which is the first lesson for the day. And the topic is electricity with Mr. Sikumbuzo Sifunza. A very good afternoon, sir.
Hello, Lerata. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, so today's topic is electricity. What would you expect the viewer at home to have learned by the end of the lesson?
Okay, by the end of this lesson today, the learners at home, they should be able to describe the different forms of electricity. They should also be able to define electricity and then investigate how it is possible for different objects or materials to have a charge or to attract and repel other objects due to a charge. And then they should also be able to give different examples in everyday life where charging takes place by friction. That's all these learners at home should learn today, Lerato.
Okay, grade 7s, I hope that you have your materials ready. So without wasting time, you may begin your lesson.
All right, thank you, Lerato. Right now, I have displayed a picture showing different appliances that are used at home. These all, appliances that you can see. You can see a refrigerator right there, a washing machine right there, also a blender right there. There's quite a number of these appliances, and what you need to know is that they cannot work without electricity. So today's lesson is very important in the sense that it makes us to understand the use where we can use electricity and how electricity comes to being, how electricity takes gets to occur to the extent that we are able to use it at home. Now, for the purpose of understanding electricity, you need to be able to define electricity, what exactly electricity is. What you need to know is that electricity is a form of energy. There are different forms of energy. We can have quite a number of them, but electricity is one of them. And electricity, now, what you need to understand is that electricity comes with the flow of a charge, which is one of the things that we're going to look at today. And then these charges that we're talking about can either be negative or positive. So we're saying electricity comes with the flow of a charge, which can either be negative or positive. Now, we are going to play a short video whereby we'll be talking about the charge being formed, or the charge being formed on an object, whereby we say it is a kind or a form of electricity. Now, for the purpose of this activity, please bring next to you a plastic ruler and some small pieces of papers so that you can observe what happens as you rub the ruler against your hair, and then bring the ruler to the pieces of paper. We are going to play this video right here for the benefit of the lesson. As you can see on the video, the teacher there is cutting the small pieces of paper, making the ruler to touch the paper. As you can observe that there is nothing happening. Now the teacher is rubbing the ruler against his hair, and there's friction taking place there. What you can see now, the papers are attracting on the ruler, which means that there is a charge that is built up on the ruler, and then that charge is a form of electricity built up on the ruler. As you can see, the papers are attracting on the ruler. There's a charge on the ruler that has built up there. Now what happens is, this is a form of electricity which we call static, whereby we say that there's a charge on the material. Again, there's another video showing a balloon. This balloon will be charged, and then it should be able to pull that tin or that can to show the attraction, or because of the charge that has been built up on the balloon. As you can see now, the teacher is bringing closer the balloon, the charged balloon, to the tin there, and the tin is following the balloon because it wants to attract on the balloon. And then what we say about that is that we call that static electricity, whereby it is a charge that has been built up on the balloon, and also it is a charge that has been built up on the ruler. Now, what you need to know is that this is a kind of electricity, but we call it static electricity. Why? Because now the charge is not moving. It is only built up on a certain material. This brings us to the understanding that there are two types of electricity, whereby we say that we have static and current electricity. Now, before we go on to the other type of electricity, I want us to talk about this kind of electricity which we call static electricity. The word static means not moving. That's one thing that you need to understand, learners at home, that this word static means moving. So we are talking about a charge that has been built up on the material. In this case, it was a ruler and a balloon. So now a charge was built up there, and the charge is not moving, and therefore there is electricity which is static there. Now, as you can see there, we are saying that when you rub a ruler against a piece of cloth or against your hair, charges move from the piece of cloth or the hair to the ruler. And that is why we are saying now that the ruler is now charged. And then, therefore, static electricity is built up on the material, which in our cases, in our experiment, it was the ruler and the balloon. Meaning that charges were transferred from the hair. Charges were also can be transferred from the piece of paper or a woolen jersey like this one that I'm wearing. It will be transferred to the ruler or the balloon such that there will be a charge that will be built up there. This charge will make it, will make the ruler to be able to attract small pieces of paper as you saw on the diagram. Moving on with our static electricity topic. Moving on there, we are saying static electricity now builds up on an object, and then it makes the object to be able to attract some materials. And then this is one thing that you need to pay attention to. Unequal amounts of charge cause effects of static electricity, and these effects are attraction and repulsion, meaning that equally charged materials will repel. But if there's just one material that has been charged, it will be able to attract other materials. I hope that one is clear. Moving on to the next part of the static electricity, as you can see the diagrams there. We have two balloons. These balloons, the reason why we see these different arrows, it means that they are equally charged, and by so doing it makes this balloon to repel, to move away from each other, or they do not attract. And then as you observe the second part of the diagram, this one, the wall is positively charged, meaning that now the balloon, it being negatively charged with these negative charges, it makes the wall and the balloon to attract, as you can see on this diagram. This means that static electricity will either make charged materials to repel, or if there's only one charged material, it will attract a positively charged materials. Now we are going to move on to further emphasize that we have two types of electricity, one of which is static electricity, which is the one that we talked about, and the other one being current electricity, which is the other one that we are going to look at in details right now. Now, talking about current electricity, we say now current electricity is the flow of the charge in a material. I will repeat that. It is the flow of a charge in a material. And then you will notice that as we go on with the lesson, that it is not every material that allows electricity or the charge to flow in it. Now, the charge flows from one area of the material to another area in the same material. That is current electricity. Current electricity, I will mention, it is the kind of electricity that we use at home for appliances such as the television. As you are using the television right now, I suppose, it works because of current electricity. There is a flow that runs through the copper wires, insulated copper wires, to give the television energy so that it gives you the views or the pictures that you can see right now. To keep the charge flowing, we are saying that the charge or the current or the electricity inside the charge must move in a loop. It must form a loop, meaning that there must be a continuous movement of the charge from one end of the source of the power to another. That is why we will learn about the positive part of a cell and also the negative part. Then this means that the electricity now has to move from one part to another and form a loop. This loop is called a circuit. An electric circuit means that the connection of the loop, the connection of the parts of the circuit, or the connection of the conductors to make the electricity or the charge to move from the electric source, which in our case it is going to be a cell, to the bulb, to make the bulb to be able to give light. And then that one we call a loop or a circuit. Right now I want us to look at a simple electric circuit that we can have before we go on to the diagram. We are going to play a video before that. There is a circuit board there, as you can see on the diagram. That circuit board there is made by parts, one of which are the cells or batteries. As you can see, there is also a switch. A switch is there to cut the circuit and to connect it. We have also connecting wires, which in this case are made of copper. Copper is one of the best conductors of electricity. That is why we use copper wires. And then we're going to connect that to the switch. The switch is there to complete the circuit and also to make it not complete, so that we cut the flow of electricity. The bulb there will show us that there is a continuous movement of electricity in the circuit. And then once everything is connected, we are to observe, or we have to observe electricity. We have to observe, light on the bulb. As you can see on the experiment that is being done by the teacher there. As you can see right now, we can see some light. This means that there is a charge now flowing through the copper wires to the bulb and to the other end of the electric source, in this case, which is the batteries. Now, there is a switch there. As the teacher there is opening the switch, closing it. When the switch is open, there is no electricity, or there is no light in the bulb. When the switch is closed now, there is electricity flowing, and then it makes the bulbs to give light. One thing that you should note is that in that diagram there, in that video, you should be able to see that electricity flows in conductors. Non-conductors of electricity makes it not to be makes the bulb not to give out light. As you can see now, the copper wire has been replaced with a pencil, and there is no light on the bulb. We are going to replace now the copper wire with the pencil with the nail there. Yeah, it's a nail. As you replace that, you can see that there is electricity now, which means that a nail is a conductor of electricity, and the pencil, the wooden pencil, is not a conductor of electricity. There's a pen now. That pen shows us also, it will give us results. There is no light on the bulb, meaning that the pen is not a conductor of electricity, or it is a poor conductor of electricity. Now replacing the pen with that piece of a metal screw. As you can see on the bulb, there is light now. This means that the screw also is a conductor of electricity. We are talking about conductors now of electricity and poor conductors of electricity. We are using copper wires there on the video, as you can see. The copper wires are good conductors of electricity. That is why the charge is able to flow through them towards the bulb, through the switch, and then coming back to the cells. This means that current electricity now moves through conductors of electricity. The certain materials that makes it possible for electricity to flow in a circuit, we call them conductors. But those that do not allow the flow of electricity or the charge in them, we call them poor conductors of electricity or insulators. As we were doing the activity using the screw, using also the pencil, using also the copper wire, and also the pen, this means that electricity can flow through certain objects. It can also not flow in other objects. Those objects where we observe that electricity can flow through them, we call them conductors. And those objects whereby electricity cannot flow, we call them insulators. I hope that one is very clear. We are going to move on to a table to tabulate our results from the experiment. We are looking at conductors and insulators. Insulators, remember that they are the poor conductors of electricity. Insulators are the materials that do not allow the flow of a charge through them. So we call them insulators. I will just give you this brief table so that you can see that if you were tasked to give differences in the manner of conductors and insulators in the experiment that we did, you were supposed to get these as your answers. Under insulators, you were to get the wooden pencil as a poor conductor, the woolen string, and unfortunately it wasn't shown on the experiment, but a woolen string is not a conductor of electricity, and the plastic pen is also a poor conductor of electricity. But coming to conductors, we have quite a list, one of which is the copper wires, the screws, and also the nail. All those three mentioned materials allow the flow of electricity through them. Therefore, we call them conductors of electricity. Those that do not allow the flow of electricity in them, we call them poor conductors or insulators. I hope that one is clear with everyone. We have spoken about insulators and conductors. Conductors being the materials that allow the flow of electricity through them or the flow of a charge through them, and also insulators, which are those materials that do not allow a flow of a charge through them. I hope that one is very clear with everyone right now. Now, some questions come during examinations whereby you are tasked or required to make or draw a simple circuit. To make or draw a simple circuit right here, to be quick, we can see that we have a battery. Sometimes the battery is called a cell. Cell like this. I hope my handwriting is clear there. We have a switch right there. We have the light bulb, which will show us that there is current flowing. Once the switch is closed, there will be light on the bulb. This is to show us that there is electricity or a charge flowing from the battery through the light bulb back to the battery, making a loop. This loop is called a simple circuit. I hope that one is clear. We have spoken about a circuit whereby we're saying it is formed by connecting wires or copper wires, a cell, a switch which is there to cut or to close the circuit or to open it, and then the light bulb which will act as an indicator that there is current or there is electricity or a charge flowing in the circuit. Then we have two types of circuits. The first type of a circuit is called a closed circuit, whereby once closed, a circuit is closed on the switch. Once the switch is closed, current or the charge will flow through the copper wires from the electric source, which is the battery. And then once the switch is open, it makes another form of a circuit. The light bulb will give light as long as the switch is closed. For example, at home, when they say switch on the light, what you do actually, you are closing the circuit. You are making the circuit to be complete in such a manner that now your house, if the bulbs are not faulty, there will be light in the house, provided by the light bulb that you have in the house, of which at home we do have an electric circuit right at home. When you switch on the lights, what happens is the circuit is being closed. We were talking about a closed circuit. And then now I want us to talk about the other type of a circuit, whereby we say it is an open circuit. An open circuit now is the situation whereby the switch, this part that I'm putting a star next to, is the switch. When that one is open, it cuts the charge from flowing. It makes the charge not to continue to flow, and thus there will be no charge flowing through the wires from the batteries. And then in that way, you will observe that there will be no light. Once you cut the circuit, there will be no light in the house. There will be darkness at all. So we've spoken about two circuits, one of which is a complete circuit, and the other one is an open, a closed and an open. Sometimes the closed circuit is called a complete circuit, meaning that there is a continuous flow of electricity. I hope that one is very clear. And then secondly, there's the open circuit, whereby we say that it is the situation whereby the circuit is not complete and there is a cut within the circuit or the making it not to be possible for electricity to continuously the connection. I hope that is clear. And you will note that a switch is used to complete the circuit or to open the circuit. I hope that one is clear. We are going to move on to the next slide, whereby we talk about the sources of electricity. The sources of electricity, because a static electricity does not have any source. You'll remember we said that static electricity is the build-up of a charge within a material. But this kind of electricity, which is current electricity, it is produced by sources of electricity, one of which is a solar panel. Right there, we have a solar panel, which is a good example of an electric source. Generators are also electric source. They are also electric sources. And then we have a hydroelectric power station where the production of electricity is done. In Swaziland, we do have quite a number of those hydroelectric power stations. But then there are other power stations other than hydroelectricity. They are also sources of current electricity. I will speak also of a battery or a cell. A battery is also a source of current electricity, and all the mentioned sources, they produce electricity, not just any form of electricity, but current electricity. We are moving towards the end of the lesson. I want to summarize the facts that we talked about today. First, we talked about the two forms of electricity, which are static and current electricity, whereby we said that static electricity is the build-up of a charge. It is the build-up of a charge on a material. I will remind you, dear viewer, that when you rub a plastic ruler against your hair or a balloon against your hair, what happens is static electricity, or a charge moves from the balloon, from the hair or the piece of cloth to the balloon, charging it, making static electricity to be present on the material, as we are saying here. And then we said that a static electricity makes charged materials to attract or to repel other materials. It makes charged once a charged material is brought to other materials, they will either attract or they will repel, meaning that they do not attract. Repulsion is the opposite of attract. Before I continue with the summary of the lesson, I will just give Lerato this chance. Maybe there's a break that we need to go through for a moment.
No, so you can continue.
Okay,
it's just that I think there's 5 minutes left.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. Thank you very much. Let me just sum up quickly. On static electricity, it can be observed when you pull off your jersey. When you pull off your jersey, when you take off your jersey, sometimes you can hear a cracking sound. That cracking sound is an evidence that there is static electricity that has been produced in one of the materials. Now coming to current electricity, we said that current electricity forms when a charge flows in a material. And current electricity flows in conductors of electricity. Materials that allow a current electricity to flow, we call them conductors. But those that do not allow a current electricity to flow, we call them insulators or poor conductors of electricity. One thing that you need to know is that we have conductors of electricity and also non-conductors or poor conductors of electricity, which we call insulators. And then a charge, that is electricity, a charge will flow through a closed circuit. I have mentioned that a closed circuit, a circuit is either closed or opened at the switch. I'll repeat that. A circuit is either completed or made short at the switch. You can complete the circuit by turning the switch on, by closing the switch. Therefore, you will observe if it is a light bulb that you need to if there's a light bulb that you want it to produce light, there will be light in the house when the switch is closed. But once you open the switch, there will be no light in the house. Open circuits makes the charge not to flow continually. That is why you will observe that in the house there will be no light once you cut or you open the switch. And then lastly, sources of current electricity include, we have mentioned quite a number, one of which is batteries, generators, solar panels, and power stations. There's many more of these electric sources that you can have. I have just given you a few so that back at home you can sit thinking about other sources of current electricity. Before I end the lesson, I'll just display some questions there for you to make, so that you can check if you've understood the lesson. These questions are, first one, you are to define electricity. Secondly, to name or to state the two forms of electricity. And then thirdly, to give 3 sources of current electricity. You are to give 3 sources of current electricity. And then next you have to explain how static electricity differ from current electricity. In short, what you need to do there is to give the differences between static electricity and current electricity. Then lastly, you are to describe the effects of charged objects or charged materials on one another. Those are the questions that I'm going to leave with you, dear learner. Otherwise, this lesson has come to an end. Thank you, Lerato.
Thank you very much, sir. But then before we end the lesson, there's just one question. Well, right. There's a lot, but can I just give you one question?
Not a problem.
It says, kindly repeat the other name for a closed circuit.
Okay, a closed circuit is a complete circuit. You can either call it a closed circuit or a complete circuit. And you should note that there is a continuous flow of current or continuous flow of electricity once the circuit is closed or complete. That's how I can just briefly narrate it, Lerato.
Okay, thank you. And if there's no switch, is it a complete circuit?
As long as the bulb is giving light, as long as there is light on the bulb, there is no switch in the connection, it can be a complete circuit or a closed circuit. That's a very brilliant thing that I forgot to mention. Thank you, Lerato.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
The lesson was very interesting and I'm sure it was beneficial to the grade 7 learners. Up next is my colleague Nogwazi Dlamini, who is going to be presenting the next subject for Form 3 learners. So Form 3s, do not go anywhere. We will be back after this.
Kids, wash your hands so you can come in and have lunch.
Okay, Mom.
Tabo, apply some soap. You shouldn't just use water only.
But my hands aren't dirty, Nolwazi.
Just because your hands don't look dirty doesn't mean they're clean. We need to wash our hands regularly with soap and running water for at least 20 seconds, just like teacher taught us, so that all virus-causing germs and bacteria are washed away.
Tabo, listen to your sister, baby. It's important to always wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Like right now before we eat, after using the toilet, after touching animals, or after changing a nappy. We must also clean our surfaces and toilet seats with disinfectant.
Guys, it's time to wash our hands. Wash our hands. Wash our hands. Dirt and germs from stain and germs. Germs bye-bye. First the water, then the soap. And you scrub all your palms. Scrub your fingers till they're clean. Rinse and dry.
Guys, I'm home.
Welcome back, honey.
This is your 1 p.m. news update brought to you by Victor Silombo. In the news today, we'll speak a little bit more about COVID-19, a disease that's infectious and causing problems all over the world. COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by the coronavirus. The disease can spread from person to person through small droplets from the nose or mouth, which are spread when a person with COVID-19 coughs or exhales. These droplets land on objects and surfaces around the person, and other people then catch COVID-19 by touching these objects and surfaces, then touching their eyes, nose, or mouth. Here's a few simple precautions that you can follow to reduce your chances of being infected or spreading COVID-19. Regularly and thoroughly clean your hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or wash them with soap and water. Cover your mouth and nose with your flexed elbow or use a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Then dispose of that used tissue immediately in a dustbin. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Maintain a social distance of at least 1 meter between yourself and everyone else. Drink copious amounts of water to make sure your body is hydrated. And remember, if you develop a fever, a cough, or have difficulty breathing, call 977. Stay safe, stay home.
Kids, I hope you are listening carefully. It's very important that we take these precautions very seriously, so we all avoid catching or spreading COVID-19. So, we must stay home for our safety. Okay?
Yes, Dad.
Welcome back to our viewers and a very good afternoon if you have just joined us. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini and this is Eswatini TV. You are tuned into Home Study and right now we are doing Form 3 Mathematics, and already joining me in the studio is the Form 3 Mathematics teacher, Jengsile Makakula. Also joining us in the studio are our sign language interpreters, Tobile Fagute and Linda Mamba. How are you doing today, Jengsile?
Good, Nogwazi. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you very much. Today we're doing graphing simple linear inequalities, right?
Yes.
What are you expecting your Form 3 learner to have learned by the end of this lesson?
By the end of this lesson, I expect them to be able to illustrate these inequalities in a number line. Also, to use the correct signs. That is either less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. and also use the correct circle when plotting this in a number line. They're also expected to read the same from a number line.
All right, thank you very much for that, Jengsile. I hope you're from Teresa. Actually, looking forward to the lesson. And just to remind our viewers back at home that we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions for this particular lesson, please text us those questions on our WhatsApp number. Jengsile, you may please begin your lesson.
Thank you so very much, Nwazi. As we have said, dear learner, you are expected to be able to illustrate simple inequalities on a number line, and you are also expected to use the correct circle. Please note the circle and the signs as we have just said them. That is the less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And also you are expected to be able to use x is between a and b as a is less or equal to x, less or equal to b, and read these inequalities from a number line. Maybe you would be asking yourself where you would be using these inequalities in real life. Well, you can use these inequalities in real life for budgeting. Say you want to know the maximum or the minimum cost of whatever you want to buy. So you can use the inequalities. Say maybe I'll need at most 200 emalangen, at least 150 emalangen. Now let us get into what we expect you to know by now. We expect that you now know how to draw and interpret a number line. And now you know how to use the signs equal to, less than, or greater than to show the relationship between numbers. And then perform operations on directed numbers. By operations, we mean you can add, subtract, multiply, or divide using directed numbers. And then now, in our lesson, let us start from what you learned in book 1. In book 1, you learned how to use the signs less than and greater than to show the relationship between numbers. For example, let us use the signs less than or greater than to make the following statements true. Remember, when we say it's less than, we simply say, let's say we're given 1 and 2. We are simply saying which number is smaller between the two. And in this case, 1 is smaller than 2, which means 1 is less than 2. So here we have 2 and 4. Which number is smaller between 2 and 4? We're saying 2 is less than 4. If you want, you can read from the 4 and say 4 is greater than 2, because now the sign when you're looking from the 4 reads more like the greater than sign. Maybe we can explore and see how this greater than differs from the less than sign. Now we have 3 and negative 7. Remember, if these numbers were in a number line, the 3 would be on the right as compared to the negative 7. And numbers, as you go to the left, they are smaller than those on the right in the number line, which is to tell us that the 3 is greater than the negative 7. Now we have negative 2 and negative 4. These numbers are both negative. It becomes a bit easier to view these numbers on a number line. Say we start our number line at 0. We come to negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. When moving from right to left, the numbers are decreasing, which means since negative 2 is on the right when compared to negative 4, it means negative 4 is smaller or less than negative 2. Hence, we say negative 2 is greater than negative 4. And then we look at this one now. We have 0 and negative 3. And we know that 0 is greater than negative numbers. Hence, we have the sign 0 is greater than negative 3. That was just a reminder of what we did in Form 1. So in today's lesson, let us just remind ourselves of what we were doing in the previous lesson where we were viewing integers. But now we just want to list the elements of a set A, where A is the set of integers greater than 1. Please note we are saying integers greater than 1. Now let us list these elements of the set A. Remember we said greater than 1, which means when you are listing these numbers, you cannot include 1 in your list. Hence you start with 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go on and on. As we said last time, that the set of integers is a set that is infinite. So you cannot finish counting. So you can go on and on, but you start with 2, since we said these numbers should be greater than 1. Hence you do not include the 1. Now we can write this set as an inequality. An inequality is whereby we didn't use equal, because say for instance I have 1 and 1, I can safely say 1 is equal to 1. Then we have an equation. If I say x is equal to 4, that is an equation. But an inequality uses the signs greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. In our case we have x is greater than 1. That is our inequality. X now, what is this x? Because we just listed numbers and now we're coming up with an x. As you know, we mathematicians will just love x. So now we have the x here. The x here is the set of numbers. It can be any number that is greater than 1. Since these numbers are not only confined to integers, they can be any number. Say for instance, I have 1.5. 1.5 is a number that is greater than 1. So to be safe, you don't list the numbers always. You just write x to represent all the numbers that are greater than 1. So x can be any number that is greater than 1. So we used the variable x to represent any number greater than 1. Okay, now we want to represent this inequality in a number line. The very same inequality that we have, x is greater than 1. We want to show it in a number line. Our number line has values from -6 to +6. We just have -6, -5, -4, -3 up to +6. Now we want to show these numbers x that are greater than 1. So what we usually do is we have a circle. Here is the circle here. And please note that this circle here is not shaded. It is just an open circle. This open circle shows us our limit or our boundary, which is 1. But the reason why we haven't shaded this circle, by it being open, it shows that the 1 is not included, because this is an exclusive inequality, which is to say that the 1 is just a boundary part. Whenever you want to list the members of the set x is greater than 1, you do not include the 1. That is why the circle here is not shaded. It is just an open circle. Now, as we all can remember that when we are reading a number line, the numbers that are greater than 1 are on the right hand side of 1, and those that are less than 1 are on the left hand side in our number line. So we have this arrow showing the numbers that are greater than 1. We have the arrow that shows that the list is endless, or it's a continuous list. It's not just the numbers between 1 and 6, but the arrow shows that you can go on and on and on listing numbers that are greater than 1. And then now, since we know the circle for an exclusive set where we are saying x, say, is greater than 1, let us look at this one now. This inequality, x is less than -2. We want to show it on a number line. So the first thing, we identify -2 and we draw our circle on top of -2. Remember, our circle is an open or an unshaded circle. Now we look for the values of x, or since we have our number line labeled x, which means our numbers here represent x. So we're looking for the values of x which are less than -2. Now less than on a number line points to the left. So we have our arrow pointing to the left to show that the list is continuous but to our left, since now we have less than. Please note that we use a blank or an unshaded circle for the inequalities with the signs less than and greater than, since we said we do not include the boundary. Say we have 1 or -2 as our boundary, it is not included when we are listing the values of x. Now let us consider the set of numbers that are equal to and those that are greater than 1. Now we want numbers equal to and or greater than 1. When we list these numbers now, we have to start with 1 because we said we're looking for numbers equal to 1 and those that are greater than 1. So our set is different from the first one because now we're starting with 1. We're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can continue, since we can see this is an infinite set. This set now has numbers that are greater than 1, and the number 1 is part of this set, since we said we want equal to or greater than 1. Now we use a different inequality than the first one. We have this one, it's x. We have x is greater than or equal to 1. In short, we said we want numbers greater than 1 and those that are equal to 1. So we are trying to write the greater than sign together with the equal sign in one statement. Hence, we have the sign greater than or equal to. We just took just one part of the equal sign and wrote it together with the greater than sign. Hence, we have x is greater or equal to 1. Just trying to have both signs in one. Hence, now we have a new sign. This sign now is inclusive, which means if I have x is greater or equal to 1, listing the elements of this set now, I will have to start at 1, or I include the 1. We say this set is inclusive of the 1. Now on the number line, we show this by using a shaded circle. The shaded circle says now we're looking for numbers that are greater or equal to 1. Greater than 1, as we have seen, is on our right, but equal to 1 is just on the 1. Hence, by shading, we are saying that now we are including the 1, which is our boundary. Hence, we use the shaded circle to show that this inequality now involves or includes our boundary. Now, let us just work out some examples. Represent the set or the inequality A is greater than or equal to -3 on a number line. Remember, this is greater than or equal to. Hence, we are going to use a shaded circle. Our shaded circle is on the number -3. So now we find -3. We have our shaded circle. But now we're saying our A, since our number line now is labeled A, which is to say our numbers now are no longer X, but now they are members of the set A. So we have A greater or equal to -3. Now that we have our circle at -3, we said greater than on the number line is on the right hand side of -3. Hence, our arrow will point to the right from our -3. Now, let us have another set or another inequality, which is x is less than or equal to 0. We want to show this one on a number line as well. Remember, we always mark our boundary with the number part of this inequality, which in this case is 0. Since our sign here is less than or equal to, it means that it is inclusive. Hence, we will have the shaded circle just above the number 0. Then we draw our arrow to the left to show that the x is less than or equal to 0. Now, the next task is for us to write the inequalities represented on the number lines. As in the previous example, we were given the inequality to graph it, but now we have to read it from the number line. From what we have been doing, we first identify the number where the circle is. In this case, it's -4, and our variable is t. Now we want to know which sign to use to relate the t and the -4, because what we know now is we have t and we have -4, but now we want to know which inequality goes in between the two. Now, before we can see which inequality, we first view the circle. Our circle here is a shaded circle, which means it is inclusive. Then now our arrow points to the right. We said on the right there are numbers that are greater than -4, but now we have to include the 4 since our circle is shaded. Hence we have t that is greater than or equal to -4. Maybe you would have started with the number if you wanted to. So you would have written this as you want to find the relationship between the -4 and the t. Now you want to see which one is greater. Is it the -4 or the t? As you can see, as I go to the right from -4, it shows that the t is greater, but the -4 is less. Hence, I can say -4 is less or equal to t. Now, our next number line is labeled y, which is to say we want the relationship now between y and the number, which is 5, since our circle is just above 5. Hence, now we want the relationship between 5 and y. The inequality now is not inclusive, which means it is exclusive since our circle is not shaded. And now the arrow is pointing to the left, which is to say the numbers or the number y is a number that is less than 5. So we are saying our y is strictly less than 5. Remember, you cannot use the sign we used in the first example here because the 5 is not included. It is an exclusive set, which is y is strictly greater than 5. Now, we can just view this written in 2 ways from our previous example, where you can write the y is less than 5 as 5 is greater than y, and the same goes for the t is greater than or equal to -4, can be written as -4 is less or equal to t, as we have just said. Now our task is to draw separate number lines to represent these inequalities. The first one is x is greater than or equal to -5, and the second one is x is less than 1. Please note, this example has been taken from your Prism Alive Book 3, Exercise 8.1a, question number 3. We have our B and F from that exercise. Our solution, we were asked to show this in a number line. X is greater than or equal to -5. We have our -5, and then that is where we place the circle. Our circle is a shaded circle because we have an inclusive sign, which is x is greater or equal to. Hence, our circle is a shaded circle, and values that are greater than 5 are on the right. Hence, we have our arrow pointing to the right. For the F, we have x is less than 1, which means we are not going to include 1 in our solution. Hence, we have the unshaded circle. And then we are pointing to the left because we're looking for the values of x that are less than 1. Now, let us look at this one. Say you are given these sets, the set P and the set Q. The set P is a set of integers that are greater than 2, and the set Q is the set of integers less than 6. Our first task is to list the elements of the sets P and Q. So the set P contains numbers that are greater than 2. Remember, we just said greater than. We didn't say or equal to. So we will not include 2. We will start from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we can go on and on and on. All the numbers that are greater than 2. And then the set Q is the numbers that are less than 6. So I decided to write them in descending order. So we will have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, -2, and so on and so on. You can list these numbers until you are tired because you cannot finish this set. Now, our second task is to list the elements of the set P intersects Q. In short, we are saying we want those elements that are members of P and also the very same elements are members of Q. So we're just looking for the values that are found in both the sets. Let us just go back to our example. We can see there is a 3 in both sets, there is a 4, there is a 5. So it's 3, 4, 5 in the set P intersects Q. Now let us try and define the set P intersects Q as we had defined the sets P and Q. The set P intersects Q represents the integers that are greater than 2, but they are less than 6, which means now there are two conditions. These numbers are greater than 2 as well as they are less than 6. We can just say they are between 2 and 6. And in our example, we are excluding the 2 and the 6. So now, let us try and see this further. Trying to show this in a number line. Now we're saying these are the values that are between 2 and 6, but we are not including 2 and 6, simply because our signs were numbers greater than 2 and numbers less than 6. Maybe using what we've been using before. Say we have our X, which are numbers that are greater than 2, and also X, which are numbers that are less than 6. We can use the same diagram to plot these inequalities, and we have the first one being X is greater than 2. So we have our circle just above 2, and numbers that are greater than 2 are on the right. So we have an arrow pointing to the right. And now we look for X that is greater than, that is less than 6. X that is less than 6. Let us show this one also. So we have our circle now just above 6. And now since it's less than, it means our arrow will be pointing to the left. Maybe I can extend the arrow from our 2 to just show that there is an intersection of some sort in these arrows. You see the green arrow and the red one. There is a region that has both the lines just above 2 and above 6. We can see the red one together with the green one. We can see both colors now, and this is the region we are looking for, since it has numbers that are greater than 2 together with those that are less than 6. Hence, we can show this with just one drawing, where we have a circle above 2 to show that we have a boundary at 2 and also a boundary at 6. And remember, we said both circles are not shaded because we're not including the 6 and the 2. And these values are just found in between our circles, that is between the 2 and the 6. From the number line, we see now that these numbers are between 2 and 6. They are strictly greater than 2, but they are less than 6. And we use this inequality now. We said our values are X. And then now, this X is a number that is greater than 2. So if I want to write it from here, I can write X is greater than 2, but we can use the other form where we say the 2 is less than X. And also we are given that the X itself is less than 6. Since when we say x is greater than 2, we simply mean that 2 is less than x. So we write it this way for us to be able to write the inequalities in just one form, just one statement. Hence we have 2 is less than x, the x is also less than 6. And we call this type of inequalities a double inequality. Let us see this further in an example. In a double inequality, now we have two values as boundaries, and then we just look at the inequality sign to know if it's inclusive or exclusive. In this case, we have -5 as our boundary, but the -5 has an inclusive sign. We have -5 is less than or equal to x. Hence, we have a shaded circle on -5, and we are looking for numbers that are greater than the -5. And then we are looking for x is less than 4. X is less than 4, but we want to draw this at the same time. Hence, we have our x here at 4, but with an open circle. Now we're looking for numbers that are less than 4. Therefore, we have a boundary at 5 and at -5 and also at 4. But the one on -5, because it has the or equal to, it is shaded. Then we can show this in a number line. Please note that we said the blank circle is used for the signs less than and the sign greater than on the number line to show that it is exclusive of the number part of the inequality. And we use the shaded circle for where we have less or equal to and greater than or equal to. Now you state the inequality represented on this number line. The first step we said we're looking for the boundaries. The lower boundary, you write it on your left, which is -6. And then we have x somewhere in the middle. Then there is the 3 at the far right. We want to see now the inequality signs that we have between -6 and x and between x and 3. Since the circle is shaded and we are moving to the right, it means the -6 is less than or equal to our x, and the x is less or equal to 3. Hence, we have our double inequality as -6 is less or equal to x, which is less or equal to +3. In conclusion, in today's lesson, we have learned how to illustrate simple inequalities on a number line. And whilst doing this, we used the correct circle on the number line to show that it's inclusive by an unshaded circle, and to show that it's exclusive or it's inclusive using the shaded one. Excuse me. The shaded circle is for inclusive and the unshaded circle is for the exclusive one. So there was somehow the diagrams were swapped. Then now we used the signs less than and the sign greater than. We also used the sign less or equal to and greater than or equal to. We also used the notation for a double inequality where we have our a and b as the values. Say for instance, a can be 2 and b can be 6, and we have our x between these two where we have 2 is less or equal to x, which is less or equal to 6. This notation is for our double inequality. And we were also able to read inequalities from a number line. I hope you had a good time with our lesson, dear learner. Thank you very much, Nogwazi. This is where my lesson ends.
Thank you very much, Jengsile, for that. And we're looking forward to seeing you again for mathematics.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. From threes, please do not go anywhere. Coming up next is Lerato Mabilisa with the Siswati Form 3 teacher, Mangaliso Dlamini. We'll be right back after this.
Kumelula ukuthi ligciwane lecorona lisuke kulomunye lingene kulomunye uma sitawusonzelana. Singasita sinciphise kuanza kwalo ngekuthi sikhweshelane. Lokhu kusho ukuthi singachawulani, singathinzani njengokuhagana nje. Tikhweshise ngesigaba lesimitha kusuka kulabanye. Kumcoka kakhulu kuhlala uhlobile nekuthi hlobisa uma uke waphumela kubantu. Ngekubambisana sitakumisa kwanza kwaleli gciwane sibe ngulabaphilile. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
COVID-19, yes, the coronavirus. It is now our daily talk. It is now our everyday breaking news. I think it's high time we all come together and make sure we bring an end to this. Because we can't sit down while it's still taking over. Let's all follow all the precautions given by the health department so that we can protect ourselves and also protect others.
I just wash my hands before I touch. I just close my mouth before I cough. And I just close my mouth before I sneeze. And I don't go to parties, that's a risk, yeah. I see.
I wash my hands before I touch.
I see.
I close my mouth before I cough.
I see.
I close my mouth before I sneeze.
I see.
I don't go to parties, that's a risk.
I see. People going through a lot. I see. Coronavirus is a threat. I see. I don't go to parties, that's a risk. I see. I close my mouth before I cough. In case you're wondering, just wash your hands in case you handle things, and then keep an eye if you sneeze or cough, gotta keep it covered. I mean, who am I? Just a person living, wanna see you living, cause I value life. Eswatini, raise up, we gon' fight and conquer, cause we really got this.
I see. I wash my hands before I touch.
I see.
I close my mouth before I cough.
I see.
I close my mouth before I sneeze.
I see.
I don't go to parties, that's a risk.
Believe that some of the people you know can never be trusted at all. You gotta be cautious. Wash your hands more often. Can trust everything that we touch. And when you sneeze, you gotta make sure you cover your mouth, but not with your hands, cause you do not know who you gonna touch or what you have touched before all of that. Avoid meeting up with too many people for your own good and everyone else. You gotta make sure you keep it all clean. Watch how you maneuver, look after yourself. A hand sanitizer won't kill you. Make sure that you use running water. Just think of our brothers and sisters in the country and the ones that are outside the borders. Yeah.
I see. I wash my hands before I touch.
I see.
I close my mouth before I cough.
I see.
I close my mouth before I sneeze.
I see.
I don't go to parties, that's a risk. Let's all come together and all say, not today, coronavirus.
Nginivusele babukeli ngiphinze nginemukele eluhlelweni lwethu lokufunda usekhaya phecelezi i-home study. Libito lami ngingilirato wakamabilisa kanti ke angihambi ngedwa ngihamba naye thishela wesiswati Mangaliso Dlamini lotabe afundzisa lona libanga lemfica. Ngikuvusele thishela ngikwemukele eluhlelweni lwethu lemfundo.
Siyabonga sesilirato nathi siyavusela.
Ngabe namhla sitabe sifundza ngani futhi yini bomcoka balesifundo?
Namhla sitabe sifundza ngekuchutjwa kwetakhi tesento. Bomcoka basuke ukuthi bafunze kufuna bakhone kusebenzisa kahle sento netakhi taso nekuchaza nje imithetho lengamele kwakhiwa kwetento.
Okay, ngaphandle kwekumosha isikhathi ungasicala isifundo sakho.
Siyabonga. Sicela umfundzi ekhaya sikuvusela uthathe lesikuzingako sibale ukubhala nekwekubhalela nencwadi umthombo 2. Umgomo wesifundo sethu ke sanamuhla mfundzi sitawubuka ukuthi ekupheleni kwesifundo bafundzi kubhekeke ukuthi bakhone kukhipha sivumelwano samendiwa nesakhi sesento emshweni. Funa futhi bafundzi bakhone kuhlela sivumelwano samendiwa netigaba temabito Sibheke ukuthi umfundzi ekhaya futhi akhone ukuchaza kwakhiwa kwesivumelane samendiwa. Fanele umfundzi akhone ukuchaza umehluko wesivumelane samendiwa, umehluko wesivumelane samendiwa nesivumelano senhloko. Funa futhi umfundzi akhone ukuchaza sakhi sekwelula sendo. Singakaqhubeki ke mfundzini nesifundo sethu sanamuhla, asesike sibuke ukuthi esifundweni lesengcile besifunze ngani. Kubuyeketa sifunze ngetakhi leti ntsathu letimcoka tesendo mfundzi. Sakhe sethu sekuqala kube sivumelane senhloko. Sithe sivumelane senhloko ngilesakhi lesiletha kuvana emkhatsini wasobito loyinhloko kanye nalesendo. Nasi sibonelo, tinja diloma inkomo sathi sivumelane senhloko ngo-D. Kanti ku-B sikhulume ngemsuka wesendo sathi umsuka wesendo ngulengcenye yesendo lemumethe umcondo longiwe walesendo. Nasibuka ke umsuka wesendo sitawubona ukuthi kulesibonelo sethu lesithi bafundzi babhala luhlolo. Umsuka wesendo ngulona longbhali, lena indlela lokhokhwa ngayo. Uyawubona ukuthi lona ngumsuka wesendo lesinemalunga lamabili lokuqalisa ngangwaca. Sakhe sesigcina lesafunza ngaso sesithathu lesibalekile sesendo kwaba sijobelelo sesendo. Gogo upheka kudla. Nasi sijobelelo sesendo mfundzi sibhalwe ngekwehluka. Sathi lesi sijobelelo sesendo sikhasanyalo lesikhomba kuvuma. Ngaphandle nangabe sisebenzise tendo letiphundvulekile. Kubuyeketa saphinza safunza ngetendo letiphundvulekile mfundzi. Sathi leti tendo letingagcini ngesijobelelo A. Naku lesingakuphawula letendo leti tingagcina ngangamisa I noma O. Nati tibonelo. Ati sithi uyati. Singaphinze sithathe T. Sithi manje tithi. Siphinze sithathe sho. Sithi basho. Siphinze safunza ngetinhlobo tesendo. Sathi tinhlobo tesendo tendo tiyehlukaniswa ngemalunga futhi nekuthi imsuka yato iqalisa ngangwaca yini noma ngangamisa. Asesibuke nathi tibonelo. Sibuke nathi tibonelo mfundzi dla. Sithi sendo lesilunga linye lesiqalisa ngangwaca. Kha. Sendo lesilunga linye naso lesiqalisa ngangwaca. Utawukhumbula mfundzi ukuthi nasikhuluma ngemalunga ubuka labonkamisa ukuthi bangaki kulesendo. Nasi nje lesithi bhala. Sinemalunga lamabili ngoba babili labonkamisa. Qalisa ngangwaca. Kani lesithi eba. Mabili emalunga ngoba bonkhamisa babili so nasicalisa ngangamisa. Elusa sendo lesinemalunga lamathathu lesicalisa ngangamisa. Kwethula sifundo sethu sanamhla ke mfundzi. Asesibuke nasi lesinye sakhi lesitafu tengeta kuleti letinzathu. Lesakhi lesi mfundzi sithi sivumelwano samendiwa. Singakafunzi ngesivumelane samendiwa sesitibude yini mendiwa. Khumbula phela ukuthi sithe nasikhuluma ngesivumelane senhloko saqale sayichaza inhloko ukuthi sobito loyinhloko uyini. Nyalo ke sidibuta umbuto lothi yini mendiwa. Asesibuke lona ngsobito lokwenteka kuye sendo emshweni. Nati tibonelo. Bonele toto tinvombi tiyalitsanza liphalishi. Sitabashaya labafana kulomcutselwano. Naka letakhi letibhalwe ngalokubovu bese unaka letendo noma lamabito labhalwe ngaloku sibhakabhaka. Liphalishi bafana. Sifuna kuphawula ini ke mfundzi. Sifuna kuphawula nako. Naka letakhi kuletendo letingenhla. Tilitsanza liphalishi sakhili. Sitabashaya sakhiba. Bobani labashayawako yini leletsandvako. Bafana labashayawako. Lokusho ukuthi bangimendiwa. Liphalishi ngilo mendiwa. Letakhi ke lesitikhiphile diletha kuvana emkhatsini wesendo nelibito lelingumendiwa. Kungako nasesinika incazelo yethu kushothi stawuthi sivumelano samendiwa ngilesakhe sesendo lesiletha kuvumelana emkhatsini wesendo nelibito emshweni. Asesibuke nayi leminye imisho. Lijaha likupheka kahle kudla. Likupheka kahle kudla. Bekungeke kuvakala kube besitawuthi likupheka kahle ingqwaqwa. Kepha sithi likupheka kahle kudla. Sibonelo sesibili. Wayibhala kahle incwadi leya kumake. Sivumelana samendiwa. Sivumelana naliphi libito lencwadi. Kasichubeke mfundisi nesifundo sethu. Solo sichubeka nesivumelane samendiwa. Sesiyasichaza ke nalo sesinika incazelo. Sithi lesi sakhe lesiletha kuvana kusobito longumendiwa nesento emshweni. Kuleli imisho leyo ngenhla ngathemba uyabona mfundisi ukuthi le takhi letibhalwa ngalokubovu ngito letenda sobito longumendiwa avane nesento. Futhi le takhi leti tisesigabeni sinye nabomendiwa. Lokusho ukuthini mfundisi? Lokusho ukuthi sicalo salesigaba sitawufanana nalesivumelwano, sicalo salelibito sitawufanana nalesi vumelwano kusho sikutaba sesigabeni sinye. Sisike leti divumelane tamendiwa takhiwa tisuselwa eticalweni temabito. Kase sikubuke lokhu ngalokujulile. Naluke luhla lwetivumelwano tamendiwa. Diyahlelwa nato, dihlelwe njengetigaba temabito. Buka nathi tibonelo. Cela mfundisi ungibhalele ekhaya luhla lwakho lwekuhlela divumelwano tamendiwa. Ngesencele utawubhala sigaba, khathini ubhale bunye, ubuye ubhale bunyendi. Sigaba utawuthi lokhulumako, ulandzele ngalokhuluma naye, ulandzele ngalokhuluma ngaye, bese uthi sigaba sekucala sesibili uze uyophuma esigabeni sesiphohlongo. Asesibuke ke isigaba lokukhuluma kubunye. Babe uyangishaya. Uyangishaya. Nase sibanengi sitawuthi babe uyasishaya. Kanzi lokukhulunywa naye sitawuthi babe wena uyakushaya. Nase nibanengi sitawuthi babe uyanishaya. Kase sibuke sigaba sekucala, sigaba 1. Sitawuthi babe uyamshaya lo mfana. Kanzi nase babanyendi sitawuthi babe uyabashaya. Kwendeke liphutha ke lapha mfundisi. Naka futhi sigaba sesibili bunye umuti uyawubhidlita babe uyawubhidlita. Nase iminyendi uyayibhidlita. Sigaba sesithathu bunye sitawuthi litshe uyalishisa babe. Nase wamanengi sitawuthi ematshe uyawashisa babe. Ngithemba ukuthi uyabona nasesigabeni sesine mfundisi futhi ungakhona kulandzelela utendele wena kuleti gaba letsele uze uyophuma esigabeni sesiphohlongo. Yini ke umehluko mfundisi esivumelwaneni senhloko nesivumelane samendiwa? Njengoba uyakhumbula ukuthi esifundweni lesengcile sakhuluma ngesivumelane senhloko, kepha namhla sikhuluma ngesamendiwa. Asesibuke naku lokumbala lokungumehluko. Kokucala sitawubuka ukuthi sivumelana senhloko sona siyagucuka. Nakugucuka sikhathi. Kanti samendiwa sona asigucuki. Asesibuke nathi tibonelo. Tinvombi ti yigidza kamnanzi ingadla. Loti sivumelana senhloko. Uvumelana nelibito tinvombi. Loyi sivumelana samendiwa. Uvumelana nalokulokwentiwako ingadla. Asesibuke kenyalo ngalesikhathi sekushintshela isikhathi. Lo A sithi tinvombi tigidza kamnanzi ingadla kusho si lenvo yendeka nyalo. Kanzi ku B sithi tinvombi tayigidza ingadla. Shothi yinvo liyendeke esikhathini lesengcile. Asibuke kenyalo. lo da nguye sivumelane senhloko lohambisana nasobitulo enhloko tintombi nange yayisolomane akaguquki yena uyafanana nasesikhatsini sanyalo ngoke umehluko lokhona kafisha sithi lapha sibona ukuthi isivumelwano samendiwa lesinguyi asiguquki noma isikhathi siguquka ngomuphi lo munye umehluko mfundzi nangu sivumelane senhloko sihlale sikhona esendweni kanti samendiwa kuyendeka singabi khona asesibuke nathi tibonelo lijaha lidla emasi kunesivumelane senhloko lokungli kanzi nasithi lijaha liya wadla emasi setikhona totimbili ke manje ledivumelwano lesikunaka ukuthi emshweni wethu ekucala sivumelano samendiwa besingekho bekude kanzi kulolo ngendaso wesibili umusho sesikhona sivumelane samendiwa asesibuke umehluko wesithathu sivumelane senhloko sona siyasunduteka lokusho kuthi sivumela letinye takhi tithathe indzawo yaso kanti sivumelane samendiwa sihlala njalo sendvulela umsuka wesendo kanjani asesibuke nasi sibonelo lijaha alisawadli emasi lijaha liyawadla emasi sinaka ini kulesibonelo sethu sinaka ukuthi lijaha inhloko yalomusho li sivumelana senhloko kulomusho wethu kepha lesikunaka ukuthi la mkhatsini waloli sekunasa mkhatsini wali nemsuka lokusho ukuthi sivumelane senhloko siyavuma sona kukhaceka letinye takhi emkhatsini wato nemsuka kodwa kulo B lesikunakako lo wasolomane uhleti la eceleni kwalomsuka ngoba phela lo wa sithite nguye sivumelwano samendiwa kuletendo tethu asichubeke nesifundo sethu mfundzi nyalo ke sesikhathi sekuhlahlela sendathi bonelo hlahlela tendo letinedvumelano tamendiwa kuhlahlela wendana na uhlahlela mfundzi ukhokha takhi utichaze ngalokuphelele sihlahlela ligama lelithini sihlahlela ligama lelithi sihlahlela ligama lelithi liwadla kahle emasi lijaha liwadla kahle emasi liwadla nalifuna emasi asihlahlele ke lesendo li sivumelano senhloko sigaba 3 bunye wa sivumelano samendiwa sigaba 3 bunyendi kanzi dl ngumsuka wesendo lesilunga linye loqalisa ngangwaqa naka ke mfundzi la awugcini nje ukuthi ngumsuka wesendo kufuna usho ukuthi lesendo sinemalunga lamangaki lesi nje ngilesilunga linye sicalisa ngani sicalisa ngangwaqa bese ugcina nga a lo sijobelelo sesendo umcondo lovumako kunake lokho mfundzi kubalekile asesendele esinye isibonelo indvombi ayisakhi sitsiya sinakani ke lapha mfundzi sinaka ukuthi nakhona sifuna ukukhokha takhe sichaze ngalokuphelele ayisakhi shothi ngomcondo lophikako a sakhe sekuphika yi sivumelwano samendiwa sigaba 5 bunye yini lele ngakhiwa sitsiya siya sikusigaba 5 bunye sivumelwano samendiwa sigaba 4 bunye ak ngumsuka wesendo lesinemalunga lamabili phela lesendo bekungiakha emalunga beka amabili ngoba sithi emalunga sibuka bonkamisa ngumsuka wesendo lesinemalunga lamabili localisa ngangamisa nangilongamisa nga kanzi I ngongamisa logcinile wesendo kuphika yini lesinakako sinaka ukuthi takhi tekuphika kuyendeka tibe timbili esendweni sisinye kasichubeke ke mfundzi nesifundo sethu sesingena kule ngcenye yesibili ke manje umfundzi yesifundo sanamuhla ingcenye yesikhathi ngeSiswati. Sichazana isikhathi ngeSiswati? Sichaza noma sikhomba ukuthi info yendeka nini. Sichaza ngabe lento yendeka ngesikhathi lokukhulunywa ngaso noma leso sendo sendeke emva kwekube kukhulunywe ngaso noma ke kukhulunywe ngaso ngaphambi kwekuthi sendeke. Kase sibuke noma sibuke nje imisho lekhomba tikhathi ngoba sithi tikhathi ngeSiswati lehlukene kathathu. Sikhathi sanyalo, babe uyakhuluma. Sikhathi lesengcile, babe ukhulumile. Sikhathi lesitako, babe utawukhuluma kusasa. Into lengakendeki. Asesibuke ke mfundisi isikhathi sanyalo ngalokujulile. Sikhathi sanyalo ke sikhomba ini? Sikhomba ukuthi kwendeka kwendvo kwendeke ngesikhathi la khuluma ngaso lo lokhulumako. Nako ke lokumcoka lokufuna sikunake. Kude sakhi lesisitshela ukuthi isendo sisesikhatsini sanyalo. Isikhathi sanyalo ke sosihlukene kabili. Lo hlobo lolweluliwe ngenye kuqala. Lo hlobo lubonakala ngani? Lubonakala ngesakhi ya. Asesibuke nathi tibonelo. Bafunzi bayabhala. Bafunzi bayayibhala incwadi. Uyasibona lesakhi lesibhalwe ngalokubovu lesingwe ngiso lesikhomba ukuthi lolu hlobo lolweluliwe sendo esikhatsini sanyalo. Asichubeke mfunzi sibuke isikhathi sanyalo uhlobo lolungakelulwa sithe sehlukene kabili. Nasi sibonelo. Bafunzi babhala incwadi. Lijaha lihlabela ingoma. Yini lokunakako la? Unaka ukuthi kude ya ngeke sithi lihlobo lolungakelulwa. Kase sihlahlele sibone ukuthi nakuna ya sihlahlela sithini. Sihlahlela sendo lesithi bayayidla. Ba sivumela nesenhloko ukhumbule ufuna usinike isigaba bunye noma bunyenti. Sivumelana nesenhloko sigaba sekuqala bunye bunyendi ya sakhe sekwelula sendo. Yi sivumelwano samendiwa sigaba sesihlanu bunyenti. Tonke ivumelano mfundisi kufanele hambe nesigaba nebunyenti. Dlal ngumsuka wesendo. Lesinemalunga lamabili from sendo dla ngoba bekusendo dlala. Lesinemalunga lamabili lesicalisa ngangwaca. A sijobelelo sesendo umcondo lovumako. Kasiqhubeke mfundisi nesikhathi sanyalo sibuka ke umcondo wokuvuma nekuphika. Asesibuke ukuthi isikhathi sanyalo sona sikhomba njani kuvuma noma kuphika. Lapha sithi sendo kuvuma, lapha sithi sendo sisuke sikhomba ukuthi into lethite iyendeka. Gogo uyadla, gogo udla kudla. Lento yendeka nyalo. Yini lesinakako? Naka ukuthi totimbili ke tigcina ngesijobelelo a. Lokusho ukuthi sikhathi sanyalo umcondo lovumako. Kungendeka kodwa kungagcini lo a uma sikhuluma ngetendo letiphundvulekile njengoba satifundza esifundweni lesengcile. Awubuke nathi tibone lo mfundisi. Usho njalo gogo nakahamba. Labaphathi bathi umsebenzi uphelile. Lemisho lena isesikhatsini sanyalo mfundisi. Asesibuke kuphika. Kuphika lapha sithi into lethite ayendeki. Shosi lo mcondo lophika kowesento siubona ngekuthi kusetshenziswe takhi letitsite. Asesibuke nathi tibonelo. Gogo akadli. Gogo akakudli kudla. lana uyabona ukuthi kunetaki letibhalwe ngalokugcamile ngalokubomvu letimbili letikhomba kuphika. Khumbula sivedile ukuthi esendo sinye singaba netaki lemkhomba umcondvo lophikako letimbili. Letaki letibhalwe ngalokwehlukile ngito taki letikhomba kuphika kulesendo. Naku lokufuna ukunake ke mfundzi. Noma sendo silihlobo lolweluliwe, umcondvo lophikako bhalwa kufanana nalona walesi lesingakelulwa. Kase sikubone lokho. Kuphika kase sihlahlele mcondvo lophikako. Umbuto ungathi khipha takhe talesendo uchaze ngalokuphelele. Akakudli. A sakhe sekuphika. Ga sivumela nesenhloko sigaba 1A bunye. Gu sivumela nesamendiwa sigaba sesiphohlongo. L ngumsuka wesendo. Lesinemalunga lamangaki? Lesinelunga linye lesicalisa ngangwaca. I ngamisa logcinile wesendo kuphika. Kasichubeke futhi mfundzi sale sibuka ke nyalo umsebenzi emva kokube sesifundzile ukuthi umsebenzi lo ngadendela wona ekhaya ubone ukuthi ukuvile imbe sikhuluma ngako namuhla. Chaza umehluko wesendo lesikhomba sikhathi sanyalo hlobo lolweluliwe naleso lesikhomba lihlobo lolungakelulwa. Sifuna umehluko mfundzi wesendo lesikhomba sikhathi sanyalo luhlobo lolweluliwe nalolungakelulwa. Nika sibonelo sibe sinye. Phuzu lesibili khokha takhi taletendo utichaze ngalokuphelele. Nayi lemisho babe uyadlala. Bafana bayawutsandza umbila. Cela ungendele naloku kokugcina chaza ukuthi yini sivumelana samendiwa bese unika sibonelo sibe sinye. Ngethemba mfundzi utawukhona kuwenda lo msebenzi emva kwalesifundo. Sesephetha asesibuke ukuthi kulesifundo sanamhla sifundzeni. Namuhla sifunze ngesivumelano samendiwa. Sithi lesi sakhi lesiletha kuvana emkhatsini wesendo nasobito longumendiwa emshweni. Siphinze futhi safunza ngesikhathi ngesiswati. Sisite sehlukene kathathu. Sanyalo, lesengcile nalesitako. Siphinze safunza futhi mfundzi ngekuthi sikhathi sanyalo sehlukene kabili. Hlobo lolweluliwe nalolungakelulwa. Sigcine ngekubona ukuthi sikhathi sanyalo singakhomba imicondvo lemibili. Kuvuma nekuphika. Ngiyethemba mfundzi ukujabulele kufundza kwethu kwanamuhla nekuthi umsebenzi lonikwe wona utawukhona kuwenda sewubuka ukuthi sifundzeni esifundweni sanamuhla ube nelisuku loluhle.
Oh, okay. Siyabonga ngesifumbo sanamuhla. Sethemba ukuthi utawuphinza ubuye.
Siyabonga kakhulu nathi tsathu sethemba ukuthi bafunze ekhaya kukhona labakuzusile kulesifundo sethu sanamuhla.
Okay, lo landzelako ngumlingani wami Nokwazi Dlamini lo Tanet Fulela sifundo teno letilandzelako.
Litiko letempilo kwesixwayisile ngesifo lesivelile kulamalanga coronavirus COVID-19 bagcizelela kakhulu ukuhlendeka kwetandla lokumcoka ukuthi itandla tigezwe nawugeza tandla ke bashilo ukuthi tigeze lokungenani ama seconds lam 20 ngemanti lagijimako lanesipho
lokunye ke lesixwayise ngawo ukuthi latingalweni lingahlala leligciwane uthi ngakuthi letingalo nato utiwashe ungashinti itandla kuphela for 20 seconds nalamkhathi sinetandla ugeze nakhona litawufa ligciwane kanjalo. Ngiyacela ma-loyal viewers gezani itandla nihlale ekhaya nihlale niphephile sitayinqobe i-COVID-19.
Now, from the moment it was announced that there will be no sporting activities due to the ongoing COVID-19, we all felt that. But imagine how much work you can do in your house just using your chair. It could be anything you have in your house. Take a look at this. From my own chair, I'm able to exercise 30 minutes per day, from biceps to triceps to my abs. But what are you waiting for? It is doable, it is possible. I'm able to do all the work. No matter how much time it will take me, I will stay active. Now, if you're a soccer player, an athlete, a gym instructor, anyone who loves exercising, use this time. It is doable in the house, in your own time. Stay safe. Together, we'll win this war.
Imidlalo yonke imisiwe eveni. Hlala ekhaya utivikele kulesifo iCovid-19. Lokumcoka ukuthi uhlale ekhaya. Sitawudlala imidlalo uhulumende sekazivumela.
Kulesikhathi lapho khona umhlaba ula nemkhuhlane i-coronavirus, uhulumende kwakuleli ucele wona eMaswati ukuthi akahlale ekhaya alandzele timiso nemihambo yenhlangano yemhlaba emhlabeni. Kanike ngabe mbukeli ukuthi ngakala ukuthi uphume uye ekhaya ngoba ke uye emsebentini. Hlala ukufake i-face mask. Kanike ngabe kubita ukuthi ukhwehlelela emkhonweni. Sitawubonana mbukeli mayibuya tona temidlalo ngabe sitawulandzela tona tinqumo ta hulumende. Stay home, stay safe.
So lokukhutsatwa kona ke ukuthi hlale ekhaya uhlanzekile ugeze itandla.
Keep fit, stay home.
Ungayi ngaphandle kuyodlala imidlalo.
Hlala ugcoke i-face mask.
Ngikwamukele mbukeli ehlelweni lokufundza usekhaya i-home study losembi kwakho ngunokwazi wakadlamini kanti kulesikhathi samanje sitawufundza siswati selibanga lelishumi nakunye pheceleti form 5 kanti sewuvele ukhona thishela waso siswati Gugu Nkambule. Gugu ngikwamukele ehlelweni unjani namuhla?
Siyaphila ninjani nokwazi?
Ngiyaphila kakhulu Gugu. Namhla sitawufundza ngayo uniswa lomalunzalunza nganoma ngahle
sitawufundza ngayo.
Ubheke ukuthi umfundzi wakho abe afundzene kupheleni kwalesifundo.
Ngibheke ukuthi umfundzi wami abe akhona kubona nekuconza inkulumo lebhacile.
Okay. Okay.
Aphinza afundzele kutijabulisa.
Okay. Gugu ngicabanga ukuthi singabe sicutha isikhathi so ungaqala nesifundo sakho.
Ngiyabonga nokwazi. Ngiyakubingelela mfundzi wami ekhaya, lokubingelela kumthishela wakho wesiswati Gugu Nkambule. Lotawe afundisa phela dona tinkondlo letihlolwa ephepheni lesithathu lalo libanga lelishumi nelishumi nakunye form 4 and form 5. Sonzela ke mfundzi wami usetawuthamela lesifundo, ungiphathele ipen, ungiphathele libhuku, ungiphathele nayo incwadi yakho yetinkondlo sabalala misebe. Kulesifundo sethu ke salamhla sitawe sifundza ngayo inkondlo lekuthiwa nguyuniswa lomalunzalunza. Asingene mfundzi wami esifundweni sethu. Sitawuqala ngekubuka bumcoka besifundo. Bumcoka besifundo sethu ke kulolonga likhono lekubona nekuva inkulumo legegako nalebhacile. Lokunye sisifundzele isifundo sethu kuthuthukisa phela emakhono ekuphila. Ngekubona lokuhle lakudumisako sonkondlo. Siphinze sikhone kugwema lokubi lakugcekako sonkondlo. Kanti ke futhi siyaphinze sifunze kuchitha sidunge nje. Sitijabulise. Asingene ke mfundzi wami sibuke tihloko lesitawukhuluma etikwato. Sihloko sethu lesikhulu kuhlatiya inkondlo yuniswa lomalunzalunza. Tihlokwana tethu lesitawukhuluma ngaphasi kwato ngunati. Sitawubuka imicondvo lemumethwe tinzima. Sitawuphinze sibuke sakhiwo senkondlo. Lokunye lesitaqwaninga noma sikuhlatiye yingqikithi, umoya neluhlobo lwenkondlo. Ngigadzile ke mfundzi wami ekhaya kwekuthi ekupheleni kwalesifundvo kube kusekukhona longakhona kukwenda. Kwekuqala kuhaya inkondlo. Uphinze ukhone kuchaza sihloko senkondlo. Uthole umcondvo losebaleni, uphinze uthole umcondvo lojulile noma lobhacile. Lokunye ngigadze ukuthi ukhone kufinyeta imicondvo lecukethwe tinzima. Uphinze ukhone kuchaza sakhiwo senkondlo. Kanti kwekugcina lofune ukhone kukwenda kuhlatiya ingcikithi nemoya wayo wenkondlo. Ngitsiteke mfundzi wami sitawusebenzisa inkondlo lenesihloko lesithi yuniswa lo malunza. Letfolakala kuyo incwadzi yakho Sabalala Msebe lesekhasini 76. Sitawuqala ke ngekuyihaya mfundzi siyinambithe sive ukuthi sonkondlo ukhuluma ngani. Ngiyayihaya ke mfundzi wami. Yuniswa lo malunza. Nkunzi lemhlophe lefohla sibaya tivalelwe titintsathu watihlaba waticuphula ndvunankulu ebesuthwini taphuma tabatimbili telakanyana tabhodlela emswaneni takhina tabhekisa emabombo emuva kuleswatini emuva kulebetswana wasuyabhodla kwevakala lakuva libhuza lidlebenze laphangele hawini wasuyelusa Professor SM Guma welusa kwaluseni amunya emathole emaswati wabhodla wacuphula lalundvuka lilunza lakhula lalundvuka luyengo amunya emathole ajakadvula atifiketela aba diplomatiki ajekisa tileyidi aye ababo master kwate kwaphuma nabongcwepheshe nawe liyengo kawuye ngani ngekusipha ingcweti usiphe ingcwepheshe ingcwenge yamakhubu ingcwenge ya professaya wakhula nkunze emhlophe bagadla bomkhonyana nabomshoshi bathi ayihlabe ngeluphondvo tatseleka kuhle kwetibawu tabedvuka tifoyifo ematfoleni laphunga liphungile lishoba kwahlatiwa kwahlungwa kwacwaningwa emangce akulalela etintsangweni akulalela emadlelweni. Lenkondlo ke mfundzi wami ibhalwe nguThembekile Msibi. Nasihlatiye ke mfundzi angeke sihlatiye yonke lenkondlo kodwa sitawuthatha tinzima tekuqala letisihlanu. Asingene ke mfundzi wami ekuhlatiyeni inkondlo. Nasicala kuhlatiya inkondlo sicala ngekubuka sihloko. Ngiyethemba mfundzi wami ekhaya sawugijimile waya ekhasini 76 la incwadzi yakho sesitawubuka likhasi 77. Now uya kuleli khasi page 77 utawubona nasi sithombe. Ingabe uyasati yini lesithombe? Lesithombe lesi siyakhuluma mfundzi wami. Lapha sibona libhubesi. Sibona indlovu. Sibona libhuku leligethuliwe. Mfundzi wami ekhaya. Sike sakubona lokhu sakhuluma ngako. Kwekuthi sithombe siyakhuluma. Sivame kuba luphawu. Esifundweni sethu lesengcile sasho sathi libhubesi limelele inkosi. Ganzi indlovu yona imelele indlovukati make wesive. Nasibuka futhi lelibhuku nalo ligethuliwe lokusho ukuthi liyafundwa. Lena ke sekukuniketa umcondvo wekuthi lenzawo le yindzawo yelwati. Nome kulapho kutholwa khona lwati. Ingabekele libhubesi nalendlovu kushona. Ngendeka kusitshela ukuthi umbuso uyingcenye yalendzawo yekufundzela. Ngendeka ungephasi kwebuholi bale nyuvesi. Lokusitshelani ke mfundzi lesithombe siluphawu lwendzawo yemfundvo lephakeme even iyuniswa. Asingene ke mfundzi wami sibuke sihloko sihloko sethu sinemagama lamabili, Yuniswa lomalunzalunza. Ingabe leligama Yuniswa liyini vele? Na ulibuka mfundzi wami leligama lilibito ngco. Ingani phela libhalwe ngemagama labofeleba. Lifinyetiwe futhi nawuthi uthatha kulibuka. Tinhlavu talo dikumele ligama lelitse. University pheceleti of Swaziland. Nawubuka kuthethwe lenhlavu uni kwathatha naswa kwaphuma Yuniswa. Le nyuvesi lena siyati ukuthi kulesikhathi salamuhla seyibitwa ngeUNESWA lomele University of Eswatini. Kukutshelani ke mfundzi wami ekhaya? Ukutshela ukuthi lenkondlo le ibhalwe ngaphambi kwekube livela kangwane ligubhe iminyaka lengemashumi 5. Lokukutshelani ke lokukutshela ukuthi yabhalwa ngakube sigubhe ndiphethe phela. Niko ibitwe ngayuniswa lomalunzalunza. Asichubeke mfundzi wami sihlatiye sihloko. Ligama lesibili lesilithola kwesihlokweni lithi lomalunzalunza. Lana sonkondlo sokuniketa isithombe senvolo ngayibona ngemehlo. Sibonani lapha? Sibona inkomo. Inani inelilunza. Yini lona lelilunza mfundzi wami ekhaya? Singasho sithi sigadla senyama lesimila entsanyeni yenkunzi. Akusiyeke yonke mfundzi inkunzi leba nelunza. Kodwa likhethe lo tsite lwenkunzi kuvame kuba inkunzi lenemandla. Sonkondlo ke lapha uthite lenkunzi yakhe lakhuluma ngayo. Lese singasho ukuthi ngiyuniswa uthite imalunzalunza. Ngabe injani nasayine imalunzalunza? Kusho ukuthi seyinemalunza lamanyenti ngalokuba batekako. Lokungakuniketa umcondvo lobhacile ukuthi inemandla leqile. Asichubeke mfundzi wami. Nyalo besibuka umcondvo losebaleni. Siyatike ukuthi uma sihlatiya inkondlo sibuka umcondvo losebaleni, sibuke umcondvo lojulile. Asibuke ukuthi umcondvo wesihloko lojulile ingabe uthini. Lana sesingasho ukuthi sonkondlo uyadumisa. Udumisa inyuvesi phela yelive. Ude wayifananisa ngco nenkunzi lenemandla lamanyenti. Waphinze wayiniketa timpawu tesilwane. Lokhu lesithi buciko besilwana tiso. Uthite inemalunzalunza. Nalana mfundzi wami lokuthi athi inemalunzalunza uhabisile. Ngekwendalo inkunzi ayibi nemalunza kodwa iba nelunza linye. Kodwa kude kugcame kahle lo mcondvo wokudumisa lenyuvesi ngekuba nemandla kutemfundo ubekise wagabdzela wayiniketa emalunza lamanyenti. Lana ke mfundzi wami songaphinze ube nawo umcondvo uthi ngenteka lamalunza ayakhuluma. Lilunza lilinye sesingasho ukuthi limele luhlangothi tsite lwenyuvesi. Ngenteka likhuluma noma limele inyuvesi yaka Ngwane yasekwaluseni. Lelinye lilunza limele inyuvesi yaseMbabane. Lelinye lilunza limele inyuvesi yaseLuyengo. Asichubeke mfundzi wami. Singene sihlatiye imicondvo lesiyithola enzimeni ngayinye ngayinye. Sitawuqala ngenzima yethu yekuqala. Sonkondlo uthite inkunzi lemhlophe. Lokusho ukuthi sonkondlo la ufananise inyuvesi nenkunzi lenembala lomhlophe. Umcondvo ke losebaleni lapha kungaba ukuthi le nyuvesi inetakhiwo letimhlophe njengoba sibona kunasi isithombe sethu sayo inyuvesi yelivela kangwane. Lesakhiwo simhlophe ngembala. Funa ke mfundzi wami bese so uyangena uyajula uyatibuta. Leni sonkondlo ayinikete umbala lomhlophe. Sithite khumbula mfundzi emagama lasenkondlweni siyawahlatiya siwabuke ukuthi ngabe sonkondlo abeconze kuthini ngalowo mcondvo. lana kungente lana sonkondlo nasekathi inkunzi lemhlophe luphawu lesike salibona mfundzi lwekukhanya lokusho ukuthi eMaswati ngekuya enyuvesi sekatothuthuka empilweni ngoba imfundo phela siyati ukuthi ivula ingqondo lokusho ukuthi sonkondlo usebenzise lombala lomhlophe kuchaza kuvula ingqondo noma kukhanyiseleka empilweni. Asiqhubeke mfundzi sihlatheke yona inzima yethu ekuqala uthi tenkunzi lemhlophe lefohla sibaya lokusho ukuthi lenkunzi le lesesitsheliwe ukuthi ngiyuniswa yayingasakhoni kuhlala naletinye tinkunzi lebeti kulesibaya. So uyadibuta ke mfundzi ukuthi ngutiphi letinye tinkunzi lebetihleti kulesibaya. Nalapha ke sonkondlo uyilwanatisile enyuvesi yaKangwane. So uyayibona iyeqa lokusithombe emcondvo lesibonakalako. Asiqhubeke mfundzi. Lana futhi kulenzima le sonkondlo uzivedele umlandvo wekuthi le nyuvesi yahlephuka ngilokweqa sibaya. Yahlephuka kuphike kunhlanganisela yemanyuvesi lamathathu lebekabitwa ngekuthi yiUBLS. Lokumele ukuthi University of Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland. Lo mqondo othi yahlephuka siwuthola kulomuqa lothi tabhekisa imibombo emuva kuleswatini. Letinkunzi ke letintsathu sonkondlo lasakhuluma ngato. Sesingasho ukuthi live laseBotswana, live leLesotho, nelive laseSwatini. Lokusho silenzima yeqala ke mfundzi wami kugcama nje umcondvo ukuthi inyuvesi yayinemandla lamakhulu nekudethemba. Yayingakhona kutimela yodwa kutemfundo ingahlanganyeli nalamanye amanyuvesi. Lenzima ngalamanye amagama iyadumisa. Idumisa inyuvesi yaKangwane ngekutimela kutemfundo ingani siyasho nesaga seSwati sithi tinkunzi letimbili atihlali esibayeni sinye. Asibuke ke mfundzi wami umcondvo lesiuthola enzimeni yesibili. Nalapha siniketwa umlandvo. Kodwa lo mlandvo lesesiuthola lapha wekusungulwa kwale nyuvesi. Le nyuvesi kuthiwa yacela lusito kusukumisa lendzawo yekufundza. Lokhu sikuthola kulomuqa lothi wasuyabhodla kwevakala. Lokhu sithombe imicondvo lesivakalako. Lomunye umcondvo logcamako lapha kuthi kunenzima leyadlalwa yinkosi Sobhuza wesibili. Leyayilekelela noma yafaka sandla isasungulwa lenyuvesi. Lapha sonkondlo ukuvete kulomuqa lothi lakuva libhuza lidlebenze. Lokusho ukuthi nalidlebenze lalalela tikhalo neticelo tenyuvesi. Kuyona lenzima le kubuye kuvele kudumisa buholi nelusito kutemfundo lolwanikwa ngilowaqala khola lenyuvesi lokungiprofessor SM Guma. Uthi tesonkondlo kuwona lo muqa lotholakala kulenzima wasuyelusa professor SM Guma. Lenzima lena phenze iyadumisa lolwati loluphakeme lolwatholakala kule nyuvesi. Uthi tesonkondlo amunya emathole eMaswati. Lesi sithombe emcondvo lesibonakalako. Sesiyababona abantwana beMaswati bathola impilo, bakhula, baba nemandla, kutelwati, batimela empilweni. Naka mfundzi, sonkondlo kulomuqa nakathi amunya emathole. Emathole lapha sawungasho ke mfundzi uthi sonkondlo usebenzise buciko besifananiso. Ngo. Asiqhubeke mfundzi wami siye enzimeni yesithathu. Inzima yesithathu kunemcondvo yokudunyiswa kwemandla nekundlondlobala kutemfundo kwenyuvesi yelive laKangwane. Uthi tesonkondlo wabhodla wacuphula. Lapha kulenzima le kuphinze kudunyiswe kusungulwa kweluphiko noma hlongothi lwenyuvesi yaseLuyeng lokhu sikubona kugama kulomugqa nakathi sonkondlo lalundvuka lilunza. Lokunye lesikutholako lokusungulwa kwalohlanga lwaseLuyengo kuyadunyiswa ngoba kusho ukuthi live lathuthuka. Nayo le nyuvesi yaba nemandla kutelwati sibone nganali yaligama lakhula lokuhambisana nemicondvo wekuthuthuka. Nasibuka mfundzi wami lesithombe lesi sikhombisa inyuvesi yaseLuyengo lele ilunza phela lelinye layuniswa. Lapha siyati ukuthi kufunzelwa tifundvo tekulima, tekupheka netekuthunga. Asichubeke mfundzi wami sihlatiye umcondvo lomunye lesiwutholako kulenzima yesithathu. Bantfwana bemaswati ekubeni sebatholelo lwati phela bamunya. Siyababona ukuthi bathokoda sebaphothula sebathole lwati phela lolusezingeni. Uze wathi bachakadula lokusho ukuthi bese bachakadula ke sebendani naba siyababona lapha singasho ukuthi sebayaphothula laba bayachakadula injabulo ibhalwe ebusweni bathola ticu letehlukene kusukela etigabeni letiphasi kuya kuletiphakeme. Leticu dingafaka titifiketi, idiploma, degree, masters kanye nayo iPhD. Nakulenzima lena mfundzi solo sonkondlo uveta umoya wekudumisa kundlondlobala kwenyuvesi kutemfundvo letholwa bantfwana bemaswati. Letinzima nje letinsathu lesesibonile siyabona ukuthi sonkondlo uyayidumisa lenyuvesi. Asichubeke mfundzi sihlatiye inzima yesine. Lapha ke kulenzima sasithola sonkondlo udumisa buholi ba Professor Lydia Makhubu. Lo wabangumake wekucala khola lenyuvesi. Kuyavela ke futhi kule nkondlo ukuthi waba nemaphupho lamahle ekuthuthukisa lenyuvesi kutemfundo. Kuphinze kudunyiswe Professor Lydia Makhubu lo wekudzabuka endzaweni yaseLuyengo. Kunemuqa la lothi nawe Luyengo awuye ngani. Nakathi ke sonkondlo nawe Luyengo awuye ngani. Wendela ukuthi kugcame lo mcondvo ukuthi la kwadzabuka khona Professor Lydia Makhubu. Waphinze waba nelwati lolungetulu aluzange lwayenga lwaba ngilolusezingeni futhi lwaluphakeme ngoba phela abefunzile sekathwese ticu ngiko ambite ngengcweti. Nawunaka ke mfundzi wami lapha sonkondlo uphinze wadlalisa emagama kule nkondlo lesithi buciko bezidlalisa amagama. Uthi to Luyengo awuye ngani waphinze wathi ingcwenge ya professor ya professaya. Loku kwendela ukuthi kunanzise lenkondlo kube nebungoma thide noma sici lesakhekako usayifunza. Asichubeke mfundzi sihlatiye umcondvo losenzimeni yesine. Asingene enzimeni yesihlanu mfundzi wami ekhaya. Kulenzima lena ke sonkondlo so uveta tinkinga letinyendi leteqile letakhungatha inyuvesi yelive la kaNgwane. Letinkinga leti uyaveta ukuthi bese tenda kungasasebenteki kule nyuvesi. Ute wafananisa ngco letinkinga netifo tetinkomo. Lokubo banike letifo bomkhonywana nabomshoshi. Siyati ukuthi inkomo nasehlaselwe ngetifo leti ibese ayisakhoni kuhamba kahle. Ivame kuhlasela letifo dihlasela lamalunga alenkomo. Kanjalo ke nale nyuvesi yahlaselwa tifo tsite. Lesingathi nje nasesibekisa kungaba ngito phela titeleka. Bantwana noma sebatelekile bese bayakhimnyabeteka abasakhoni kuthola tifundvo tabo ngendlela lefanele. Futhi kulenzima le kuyavela ukuthi kwaba nebantfu labatimfamona beba netifiso letimbi tekufa kwalendzawo yemfundo lephakeme bate bathi ayihlabe ngeluphondvo uphinze sonkondlo kugqamisa lomcondvo waletinkinga lebetikhungethwe ngule nyuvesi usebenzise tibawu uthi tatseleka kuhle kwetibawu kuhle kwemvula tibawu lokusho ukuthi tibawu la tifananiswe ngco netinkinga kungaba yini ke mfundzi wami letibawu kungaba ngemahlonga ndlebe kungaba kweswelakala kwetimali tekuchuba tifundvo lokho sho ukuthi nalapha sonkondlo uphinze wafananisa wasebenzisa buciko besifananiso khumbula esifundweni sethu umfundzi wami lesengcile sabuka kwekuthi isifananiso siyesebenzise takhithite nasi sakhi lesinguhle kwe lokhombisa ukuthi lapha sonkondlo uyafananisa asichubeke mfundzi wami sihlatiye inzima yesihlanu kuyevakala ukuthi kulenzima baphathi netingoni letisebenzisana nenyuvesi tenda konke lokusemandleni kucatulula tinkinga lebetibhekene nenyuvesi lokhu sikutfola ngalomugca lothi laphunga liphungile lishoba khumbula mfundzi wami sinake lelishoba sithite kwake kwaba nemholi longumake Professor Lydia Makhubu siyati ke ukuthi baka Makhubu kuphinze kuthiwe shobane lokusho ukuthi naye ngesikhathi inyuvesi ibhekene netinkinga waba ngilomunye lowadlala inzima lenkulu ekucatululeni tinkinga tale nyuvesi uthi sonkondlo kwahlangana kwabukwa tindlela tekulungisa tinkinga lebese tikhungethele nyuvesi lokhu sikuthole kulomugca lothi kwahlatiwa kwahlunga kwacwaningwa futhi lesimcondvo esiwuthola kokuletinkinga kwaba nemathabela ngoti lesingaphinze sisidiphekula tikhulu abegadze kufa kwayo inyuvesi uze uthi sonkondlo emangce akulalela etinsangweni siyati ke uthi emangce dinyoni letidla lokufile lokusho ukuthi nalapha bela mathabela ngoti uwafananise ngco lokusho ukuthi nalapha sonkondlo usebenzise sifananiso ngco kuchaza lamathabela ngoti asichubeke mfundzi sesihlatile tinzima tetfu letisihlanu sesitawu ngena ke mfundzi wami sibuke ukuthi ingqikithi umoya nasimo sasonkondlo ingabe sithini sivile kokuthi esonkondlo uyadumisa lokusho ukuthi ingqikithi yethu ke mfundzi kudumisa kutimela nekundlondlobala kwenyuvesi yakangwane sithole kanjani ke lokuthi sonkondlo uyadumisa kutimela nemdlondlobala kwenyuvesi kule letinzima lesesibonile mfundzi sitholile ukuthi sonkondlo kwangathi uyayibongelela lenyuvesi ude wayifananisa nenkunzi lemhlophe kukhomba emandla lenawo kutemfundo nekukhanyisela sive ngekusinika lwati lolusezingeni uphinze futhi kukhombisa ukuthi uyayidumisa wayinika timpawu tenkunzi lokuthi lesithe buciko besilwanatiso uthi teyinemalunza lokubuciko besihabiso lokhu solo ugqamisa lokundlondlobala kutemfundo lesesikhulume ngako phinze lapho siphinze sithole khona ukuthi vele yayifisile kutimela nekundlondlobala kunemuca lothi yabhodla idedile lokusho ukuthi iyakhombisa kutimisela nekulwa ingcobe tinkinga tonke lebeyibhekana nato lana ke sesingaphinze siwuthole nemoya kuyona lengcikithi umoya uyadumisa udumisa ini ke sinqumo lesathathwa inyuvesi yelive la kangwane inyuvesi yancoma kutimela kutemfundo. Yaletha lwati eMaswatini. Kude phela live leMaswati lindlondlobale kutemfundo. Lana ke njengoba sishido sathi kunemlandvo lesiwutfolako wekusungulwa kwenyuvesi yelive laKangwane. Kuphindze kunebantfu labadlala tinzima letibalekile isasungulwa lenyuvesi. Sesingasho ukuthi luhlobo lwalenkondlo yinkondlo mlandvo. Sibukile ke mfundzi wami sakhiwo sangekhatsi. Sesitawungena sibuke sakhiwo sangephandle. Sisuke sibukani ke mfundzi wami uma sibuka sakhiwo sangephandle? Sibuka kumiswa kwenkondlo. Sinakani ke? Sinaka kufanana kwemisindvo, emagama nekumiswa kwetinzima. Utawutibuta ukuthi yini umsebenzi wesakhiwo sangephandle. Sakhiwo sangephandle sinemsebenzi singathi nje lemithathu. Kwekuqala kunanzisa. Lokusho ukuthi kwakheka ubungoma. Tsite, sigci, tsite. Lokunye kungaba kuhlobisa leyo nkondlo. Kanzi lomunye umsebenzi wesakhiwo sangephandle kuhlanganisa imicondvo lemumethwe yinkondlo. Asesisebenzise ke mfundzi wami indzima yethu yekuqala kuhlatiya sakhiwo sangephandle. Sitawuqala emgceni wekuqala. Umgca wekuqala uthi nkunzi lemhlophe lefohla sibaya. Lapha siyabona ke mfundzi wami ukuthi kunelunga le kulemhlophe nelunga le kulefohla. Sithi ke lokhu yimphinzalunga. Nawunaka mfundzi wami kulomgca wesibili newesithathu nakhona imphinzalunga siyayithola. Kuna D kulowesithathu kuna wa kuwatihlaba na wa kwaticuphula. Lokunye ke mfundzi wami lesikuthola kulenzima le sithi imvumelwano sicalo. Imvumelwano sicala ke mfundzi wami sithini ke isebenzisa emalunga noma ingcenye yeligama. Lamalunga aba sekuqaleni kwemiqa lemibili lelandzelanako noma lengetulu. Lokhu kutshelani ke mfundzi wami? Lapha sina da emgceni wekuqala da na da. Lokusho ukuthi imvumelwano sicalo. Kanzi ekugcineni kwemiqa yekuqala wekuqala newesibili kune msindvo na lokungemalunga. Sithi ke lokhu imvumelwano sigcino. Siphindze sithole lichumano sicalo. Lichumano sicalo ke lona sithini ke akusiwo ke emalunga kodwa sengemagama laphelele emuva na emuva. Kungaba ngemagama laphelele noma lanemcondvo lo fanako. Nasithi ke lichumano sicalo abasemgceni lemibili kuya lengetulu lelandzelanako. Siphindze sibe nalonchubeko. Lapho ke umuca longenhla ubebede luphawu. Lokusitshelani? Lokusitshela ukuthi umcondvo walomuca awukapheleli uphelela kuphi ke emgceni lolandzelako. Mfundzi wami ekhaya sesephetha asithathe nangumsebenzi. Ngithemba ukuthi sowuyadethemba sowungakhona kuhlatiya lenkondlo. Umbuto wakho wekuqala uthathi hlatiya imicondvo lemumethwe inzima kusukela kuyesithupha kuya kuyelishumi-nesihlanu. Umbuto wesibili yenda lucwaningo ngemlandvo lomumethwe ngilemiqa lelandzelako. Wasibamba satinda sihlalo phinda umfana bhuza. Imiqa lotayihlatiya aviva emathombeni aprofetha kuProfessor Cisco. Asima emasime aprofetha kuProfessor Walter. Umbuto lolandzelako lesihloko yuniswa lomalunzalunza sisebenzise hlobo luni lwebuciko besakhiwo sangekhatsi chaza. Umbuto lolandzelako hlobo luni lwenkondlo sekela imphendvulo yakho. Umbuto wekugcina sonkondlo ufananise bafundzi ne mathole. Hlatiya lo mbono usekele ngemaphuzu lamabili. Asigcizelele ke emaphuzu lesiwafundzile namhla. Sihayile inkondlo yuniswa. Sachaza sihloko. Sahlatiya emagama lasenkondlweni. Sabuka sakhiwo sangekhathi. Sabuka sifananiso ngcosi lwanatiso, luphawu kanye netitfombe emicondvo. Sibuye safinyeta imicondvo. Sahlatiya ingcikithi, umoya nesimo. Sabuka sakhiwo sangephandle. Dokufaka ekhathi impinza lunga, impinza ngwaqa, imvumelwano, luchumano. Asiphinze sibonane mfundzi wami esifundweni sethu lesilandzelako. Lapho sitawube sibuka khona buciko bekuphendvula imibuto yetinkondlo. Sitawube sisebenzisa inkondlo lenesihloko lesithi mphunukeni. Kube infokodo mfundzi wami ekhaya, kuba nawe kulesifundo sethu salamuhla. Lokuvalelisako ngithishela wakho weSiswati Gugu Nkambule.
Asibonge kakhulu Gugu sifundo sakho. Sethembe ukuthi umbukele ekhaya kusijabulele kakhulu. Sesitawubona netfundweni letlandzelako.
Siyabonga kakhulu nokwazi.
Siyabonga kakhulu mbukeli ungayindzawo. Ngiyabuya kanye nesifundo sesibili selibanga lelishumi nakunye iBiology. Siyabuya khona manje.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. Let's dance together. Join hands. Fight against Corona. Let's dance together. Join hands. Fight against Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona.
Masad, let's fight COVID-19 by making a meter away from each other.
COVID-19 Corona.
Wash your hands with soap and running water frequently to prevent COVID-19.
Avoid touching eyes, nose, mouth, shaking hands to prevent COVID-19.
Are you coughing? Are you sneezing? Or having headache? Make sure that you quickly go to the hospital.
COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona.
Labanengi labangenwa ligciwane lecorona bavame kuba netimpawu letingasito letimatima njengebuhlungu bemphimbo, kuphathwa inhloko, kushisa nekubanza, kukhwehlela lokomile, kuphefumula kalukhuni kanye nekudzinwa. Kepha kulabanye kuba matima njengoba leli gciwane lihlasela emaphaphu. Ngesikhathi umtimba ulwa nalo leli gciwane, wakheka emanti lagcola emaphashini. Emaphaphu-ke angagcola emanti akuphefumuleki. Lokhu-ke kubanga tingcinamba letinengi. Kuthi kweshisa kulabanye kuyasita ekunciphiseni kwanza kwesifo i-COVID-19. Hlala ekhaya ungahambi. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane le-corona.
Welcome back to our viewers and a very good afternoon if you have just joined us. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini and right at this moment we are doing biology 4 from 5 and already joining me in the studio is Mr. Mduduzi Geninza, who is going to be doing the Form 5 biology lesson. Also joining me in the studio is our sign language interpreter Zanele Mota. Mr. G, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm okay, Nogwazi. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you very much. I understand today we're doing part 3 of coordination.
Yes.
And its sensory organs.
Yes, we're talking about specifically the eye.
Okay. What are you expecting your Form 5 learner to have learned by the end of this lesson?
Okay, my objectives, I will highlight all of them later.
Okay.
My interest was for us to start with the rationale.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, just before we do that, Form 5, I hope that you are ready for your lesson. And just a reminder that we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions that are relevant to this particular subject, please feel free to use our WhatsApp number. Mr. G, I will let you start your lesson.
Okay, thank you, Nogwazi. But today, you will be the teacher too.
Okay.
My interest concerning the rationale is for the learners to understand the importance of this topic.
Okay.
So I would ask you a simple question. We are far asleep at home, and then somebody just turn on the light. What is going to happen with your eyes? How are you going to respond to that?
Okay, how I would respond to that, I would close my eyes for some time because the light would be a bit too bright, and then for me to get normal to the light, and I would open them again, I suppose.
That's fantastic. You are the best teacher around town. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes, that is what is going to happen. So today our rationale is about that. Trying to understand why people react in that manner whenever they are exposed to different light intensities, and also help us to understand that all the parts of the eyes are very, very, very important. All the parts, including the eyebrows. Usually you can see people outside there, some of them they no more have, yet initially they are very, very important. They had them. Let us continue with our lesson. Good afternoon, learners at home. This is biology. You are with Mr. Geninza, popularly known as Mr. G. So today we are doing coordination and response, the sense organs. Our interest today is the eye. Let us go to our next slide. Let us now highlight our objectives. You are expected to identify the components, parts of the eye, which means this is part of your syllabus. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to identify, which means in an examination situation, you might be given the eye, and then yours is to identify those particular parts. Also, you are expected to distinguish, that is to differentiate between rods and cones. I will explain later as we continue what are we talking about then. Then you are expected to relate the structure of the eye to its function, which as we continue to learn, you'll accommodate, you'll understand it as accommodation and two processes, pupil reflex, accommodation and pupil reflex. And then you'll also be expected to describe advantages of pupil reflex, although Nogwazi has already told us about it clearly, but I will elaborate more as we continue. Let's talk about sense organs. We've done this even at primary school level, even at a preschool level. The eye, we even sing that. The eye is for detecting light, the ear, sound, the nose, for chemicals in the air. Okay? Then we have our skin, which is responsible for touch. Just now, I've heard someone next to me saying it was already cold when our producer on the other side switched off the aircon. That is temperature. Okay? That's the function of the skin. It helps us to sense the temperature. Also pressure and pain. We also have a very important organ, which we refer to as a tongue, also help us to taste. Chemicals, okay, food and drinks. Okay. Here is the eye. Learners at home, I hope you can see it clearly. You can look at your friend next to you or sister or brother. You will see all these parts. We have what I've introduced early as the eyebrow, very important. We have our eyelids, we have the pupil, we have eyelashes, we have the iris, and the white part, sclera, and we have a very important part, which is the lacrimal gland. I will talk about it as we continue too. This one secretes the tears that cleanse our eyes, lubricate it, also kill bacteria. So the eye is a sense organ for what? Sight. We are able to see things because of the eye. How do we see? The eye detects the light. Because for us to see something, learners at home, light must first fall onto that particular object that you are looking into. And then after that, it can be reflected back to your eye. And then you'll be able to see it. So it informs us about color, shape, size, and position of object. Okay. Let us continue to discuss the structure of the eye. It lies in a socket in the skull, which we call the orbit. I've already mentioned the eyebrows, eyelashes, and eyelids. What is the function of those parts? Please always have them. Don't remove them, because they will help you prevent dust and dirt from entering the eye. And then we have the lacrimal glands, also referred to as the tear glands. Very important function is to secrete salty tears. No one will ever tell me that he or she doesn't know that tears are salty, because we have all cried until our tears reach that part, the mouth. So they secrete salty tears. The function of those tears prevent the cornea. You will also see it as we continue. It prevents it from drying out. That is lubrication. It also prevents the growth of bacteria, because also the eyes can be affected by bacteria, and you have certain diseases caused by the bacteria we are talking about here. I've touched on rods and cones. Let us discuss them one by one. Rods and cones, these are light-sensitive receptor cells found in a certain part of the eye, which is called the retina. Rods and cones are light-sensitive receptor cells found in the retina. Let us elaborate on the rods. These are found all, please note that, they are found all over the retina, but only not in the fovea, except the fovea. They only work best in dim light. That's why at night you only see shades. You only see black and white. No colored substances you can see, or colored objects you can see at night. As I've already said, they are sensitive to black and white. Let's go to cones. The cones are concentrated, mostly found in the fovea. Now they work only in bright light. Yet we have said the rods work in dim light. Now what makes us to be able to see color? It is the cones. They are sensitive to color. Here are the parts of the eye. All of them. This is our eye. Okay. We have the retina I've just talked about. That is where your image is formed. And then the outer layer, sclera, the fovea, which I've mentioned that only the cones exist there. We have another part of the eye, which is the blind spot. No image is formed here. And then how do we interpret what we have seen? We see it with the eye, and the optic nerve will take those impulses to the brain and spinal cord for interpretation. And then we have the choroid, which contains the nutrients, the blood vessels for the nutrients of the eye, because the eye also needs to have nutrients. And then this is our vitreous humor. We have the lens, which we'll talk about later as we continue the function of the lens, which helps us to be able to adjust the amount of light that enters the eye. Then the iris also plays a very important role there in adjusting the size of the pupil. We also have the cornea, which helps in refracting, that is bending the light that comes into the eye. Then the pupil also is the part of the eye that allows the certain amount of light to enter the eye. And then the aqueous humor, and then suspensory ligament and ciliary body, which we'll talk about them as we continue with the functions of the eye. Let's go to the parts of the eye one by one. What are ciliary muscles? Let me go to the previous one. Okay. Our ciliary muscles here, as you can see, here are they. Okay, what is their function? They change the shape of the lens. We also have suspensory ligaments, which connects the whole ciliary body to the lens. The suspensory ligaments. Okay. We also have the aqueous humor, which is a clear liquid that gives the front of the eye its shape. Aqueous humor. Here. This liquid here. All over here. Okay. Okay. The pupil. The opening through which light enters the eye. It also controls the amount of light entering the eye. We have the cornea, which is a transparent outer layer which refracts, that is bending. Refract means bending. Light rays. And then the iris, a pigmented muscular diaphragm, which controls the size of the pupil, which means these work together, these two. We will see as we continue. Parts of the eye, we still continue elaborating on each, explaining them. The lens, It is a soft, transparent body which can change shape to focus what? Light rays on the retina. The retina itself is an inner layer of the eye composed of light sensitive cells called rods and cones. These help to convert images into nerve impulses. The sclera is a tough outer layer of what? The eyeball. The function is that it protects the inner parts of the eye. And then we have the fovea, which is part of the retina, formed only of cones. Remember, I've said the cones help us to distinguish bright colors. Place clearest vision. We have a blind spot where the optic nerve leaves the eye. In the blind spot, there are no rods and cones. Hence, no image can be formed there. The last three parts to discuss is the optic nerve, which carries nerve impulses to the brain. We have the choroid, which is a dark pigmented layer that absorbs light and which has what? Blood vessels. I've said it brings the food for the plant, the eye, nutrients to the eye. And then lastly, the vitreous humor. It is a jelly-like clear substance in the eye which gives the eyeball its shape. I hope you are able to take note of each and every part of the eye. Learn at home. Okay, we have what we refer to as a pupil reflex. In my introduction with Nogwazi, I asked a question. What happens whenever instantaneously someone just switch on the light? And she said she tries to close the eyes because the light is too bright. So that is what we are talking about now. Pupil reflex. It is automatic. It is the automatic changes of the size of the pupil when exposed to different light intensities. The amount of light that enters our eye is controlled by the iris. This iris consists of two antagonistic muscles, which means they work in opposite directions. When the other one contracts, the other one relaxes to cause that particular movement. These are the radial and circular muscles. In bright light, remember, bright light, the pupil will become smaller so that less light comes in. In dim light, the pupil becomes bigger. Okay. This is clearly shown in this picture, the pupil reflex. Okay? The circles, all of them, we refer to them as circular muscles. These are circular muscles. And then we know from mathematics the word radius. These are the radial, from the word radial muscles. So these are the two muscles that work best in the pupil reflex in order for a certain amount of light to enter the eye. So we've said in bright light, the pupil must be smaller to allow less light. Even here, in this eye of Mr. G, you can see it. It's small, trying to close it so that less light comes in. This side, we can see how big
our pupil is it enlarges, because now we are talking about dim light. When you are in the dark trying to find something, you try to open your eyes more so that you get a lot of light to come into the eye and you're able to see that particular thing that you are searching. You can even see it here on top, that it is now a little bigger than the first one. Here we can differentiate, we can talk about it more clearly. So it's a summary of the pupil reflex in response to dim and bright light. So we are saying in bright light, the circular muscles will contract, the radial muscles will relax, pupil's diameter decreases, less light will enter the eye. If you are asked to explain the mechanism of the pupil reflex in dim light, you will explain that the circular muscles will relax, the radial muscles will contract, the pupil diameter will increase, hence more light will enter the eye. So previously we can see that if we see these circular muscles here, the circular muscles, if they contract, that is decreasing, they are decreasing the pupil size. So when they contract, these radial muscles will relax. Okay, let's go back to our next slide. I've talked about the retina. How is an image formed on the retina? We can see Mr. G viewing this washing soap, dishwashing soap. The image on the retina is formed in an upside down direction. Everyone, when you view on something, you look at something, the image on the retina is formed upside down. This is how the light rays are moved. This is how they are moved for you to view it correctly. So light rays from the object enter the eye, as you can see there. Then the light rays are bent or reflected as they pass through the eye. The light rays are focused on the retina upside down. Then now the nerve impulses are sent via the optic nerve. Here is an optic nerve. Okay. There is another process I did highlight earlier, which we refer to as accommodation. Okay. When we are talking about accommodation, we are talking about the change in shape of the lens to focus light rays now from a distance. So it is the change in shape of the lens to focus light rays from objects from different distances. Previously, pupil reflex, we were talking about the amount of light coming into the eye. With accommodation, we are talking about trying to view objects at different distances. Here, the parts of the eye involved are the ciliary muscles, suspensory ligaments, and the lens. Let us view it clearly. I hope my producer is with me there to help us with a small demonstration, which I will expect just immediately when I have explained this. This is my lens, which helps us view distant objects or nearer objects. So light rays must be focused onto the lens. So we can see our light rays here, and then bent, an image is formed on the retina. So if we want to see distant object, now our lens must be thin, as you can see this one, so that the light rays at a far distance are easily bent onto the retina. Okay, what if we are viewing an object just nearer to us? Now, our lens must be thick, so that the light rays which are nearer are all bent into the retina to form the object there. Please, Mr. Producer, can you please help me with my demonstration here? Yes. You can see my balloon there. With my hands, we can take them as our ciliary muscles, and then where I've hold it, it is the suspensory ligaments. As you can see it, yes, that's the lens. The balloon represents the lens. Then as you pull it, that the suspensory ligaments is demonstrating there. And then when you are viewing far away objects, we can see that we have said that the lens must be thinner, as I've demonstrated here. You will see it in the video there. Yes, you can see now. The suspensory ligaments have contracted, the ciliary muscles have relaxed, and the lens have become thin. Hence, the light rays from afar are now going to be bent easily and focused onto the retina, where the image is going to be formed. Viewing nearer objects, you can see it now. Suspensory ligaments are slackened. They are no more tight. And then the ciliary muscles have relaxed, contracted. And now the lens is thick. Hence, the light rays will be bent more onto the retina. That is a demonstration, learners at home, that I believe can show you clearly what actually happens in the eyes when you focus on near and far objects, a process we refer to as accommodation. Okay, already discussed. That is focusing for distant object, focusing on near object. Ciliary muscles relax, suspensory ligaments become tight, and the lens becomes thinner. Focusing on near objects, ciliary muscle contract, suspensory ligaments slacken, and the lens thickens. Here are questions, learners, before we close for today. I hope you've been following. This is a past paper question, question 5 of 2015, paper 2. Figure 5.1 shows a cross section of a human eye. Cross section of a human eye. Yours is to label the fovea and the cornea. Okay, I think learners will be happy with that one. All the 2 marks. You'll see a learner coming to label the fovea here. Okay, that is your fovea. And then you'll see a learner, although it is the retina, my hand is a little bit big. The cornea, not the retina. It is hidden there, the cornea. So learners will be happy to go with those marks. And then state the function of what? The optic nerve. Here is the optic nerve. We have said it transmits the information to the brain. And then the retina, we said it is where the image is formed. A person, let's go to the next question now to understand. So we have all the 2 marks if you were writing this examination in 2015, I'm sure. The next question is saying, a person moves from bright light into a room with dim light, which we have just done a demonstration here. Describe and explain what happens to the pupil reflex. Please note, learner, This is 4 marks. So make sure that you collect all the 4 marks. First of all, this is describe and explain what happens to the pupil of the eye. That is the pupil reflex. So you are expected to remember the muscles that are responsible for that. That is, we have the iris, which consists of the circular muscles and the radial muscles. Yours is to remember that if you want the pupil to be small, because you want to allow less light to come in, the circular muscles must contract, pushing it to be smaller. The radial muscles in the process must relax. If you want to make the pupil bigger, so that you allow more light to come into your eye, learner, remember that we have 2 muscles here, the circular muscles and the radial muscles. The circular muscles, for you to allow the pupil to be bigger, must relax. They mustn't push it, but relax so that it opens up. And then the radial muscles are the ones that are going to contract. And then the pupil will increase in shape. In size, not in shape. And then another last question. Paper 2 again, 2015. Question 5. Figure 5.2 shows how a lens of the eye changes when a person, remember the lens here, we're talking about the lens of the eye, changes when a person is looking at distant objects. Tends to look to a nearer object. Again here, you look at the marks that we have. 4, which means you need to do a lot of explanation. What you need to do, learner, is to sit down. Try to understand this is accommodation. Now, if it is accommodation, you have 2 muscles that you'll deal with, 2 parts that will deal with the lens, which is the one where the light rays will be bent. This is suspensory ligament. And then you'll have the ciliary muscles. So when you're answering those questions, you look at those scenarios. When the suspensory ligaments slacken, it means the other muscle must contract. It is always antagonistical. The ciliary muscles must contract when the suspensory ligaments slacken. As you have seen the demonstration with the balloon there. Okay? Done with today's lesson. Nogwazi. Hope my learners have followed everything of it. We have talked about sense organs which contain receptors that are sensitive to different kind of stimuli. The retina of the eye, we've said it contains 2, which is the cones and the rods, which are sensitive to light. We have also talked about the iris, which controls the size of the pupil. And we did mention that the pupil controls the amount of light entering the eye. The shape of what? The lens changes to focus on image. That is a process we refer to as accommodation. And then lastly, we talked about the pupil reflex, which is the automatic adjustment of the pupil. The process of doing that is aimed at controlling the amount of light that is entering our eyes. Let's protect our retina, because once it is damaged, we will not be able to see objects in future or any other time. God bless you, learners at home. I hope you followed very well today. I hope you have also answered those questions that you have been asked. May God bless you. Back to you, Novas.
Thank you very much, Mr. G. A very interesting topic that was indeed. We're hoping to see you again next time for biology.
I'm always available for all the EGCSE biology students. I hope they enjoy it too.
Thank you so much, sir. Form 5s and our viewers back at home, please do not go anywhere. Lerato and myself will be right back after this.
Labanengi labangenwa ligciwane lecorona bavame kuba netimpawu letingasito letimatima njengebuhlungu bemphimbo, kuphathwa inhloko, kushisa nekubanza, kukhwehlela lokomile, kuphefumula kalukhuni kanye nekudzinwa. Kepha kulabanye kuba matima njengoba leli gciwane lihlasela emaphaphu. Ngesikhathi umtimba ulwa nalo leli gciwane wakheka emanti lagcola emaphashini. Emaphaphu-ke angagcola emanti akuphefumuleki. Lokhu-ke kubanga tingcinamba letinengi. Kuthi kweshisa kulabanye kuyasita ekunciphiseni kwanza kwesifo i-COVID-19. Hlala ekhaya ungahambi. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Welcome back to our viewers. If you have just tuned in, where have you been? Unfortunately, that was the last subject of the day, which was biology. We are done for the day. How's your day, Lerato?
My day was fantastic. How was your day today?
My day was great. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the biology lesson and the Siswati lesson today.
I also enjoyed Siswati.
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
Mhm.
And the mathematics. Was there mathematics?
Yes, there was
Science.
mathematics today.
Yes.
Where is your head today? All right, please, Lerato, remind our viewers about tomorrow's timetable.
Well, grade 7s, Form 3s and Form 5s, your timetable for tomorrow looks like this. First subject will be social studies from 2 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., followed by additional mathematics from 2:30 p.m. to 3:08 p.m., followed by literature in English from 3:08 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. Then it will be religious education from 3:45 p.m. to 4:25 p.m. And then the last subject for tomorrow will be physics from 4:24 p.m. to 5:02 p.m.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Lerato. And just a reminder to our viewers that we are live on YouTube and on Facebook from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. And if you do have any questions for those relevant subjects that are being aired on that day, please feel free to ask on our WhatsApp number. And just a reminder again that you should subscribe actually on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV, and search Home Study for any notifications of when we are live. That's it for today. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Stay safe. Stay home. See you guys tomorrow.